Hello, my Play the Game podcast family. Hope you guys are doing phenomenal out there. We have a really special show for you guys today with none other than Dan Napoli, who is a very successful director and has done so many great things in paintball, has been in the paintball game for a long time. We're excited to share his story with you and dive into his newest project, which is called Best Kids in Texas, and it is a documentary that is releasing today. It is live. You can go to iTunes and type in Best Kids in Texas and check that out. We're going to dive into all the details on that. Super honored and grateful to have him on the show. This show is brought to you by Healbrand. Healbrand is a CBD powerhouse. Absolutely love these guys. I've been using CBD products for quite some time, and I've never used a product quite like Healbrand that has the type of potency and consistency as this company. It is truly spectacular stuff. They have something called nano CBD, which I didn't even know was a thing until recently. And what it is it's water soluble, has ultimate absorption into the body, better than normal CBD due to the fact that it is taking that raw hemp oil and putting it through an additional refinement process to break up the large CBD particles into microscopic greatness for you. Great for your healing process, getting good sleep. And they're just doing spectacular things in that CBD space. We're super honored to be partnered with them and very happy to be using their products because they work phenomenally and they really, give you that edge to get that good sleep, get that good recovery, and attack the day. And we're trying to help them heal the world. That's their mission, and we want to help them do that with these CBD products. You can go to healbrand.com, use code PLAYTHEGAME, and you'll get 10% off there. And it's a great way to support the show and support this amazing company. So thank you, Healbrand, for everything you guys are doing in the paintball landscape. This show is also brought to you by G2 Paintball. It is a G2 Paintball athletics company, and we actually just did a training camp this last weekend out at AZ Battle Zone, and we had over 40 people out there training their butts off and doing all of the necessary things to get better at paintball. Obviously, in paintball, we want to be the best athletes we can be so that we're ready to play paintball on Sunday. That's what it's all about, and win those tournaments, and we're helping players do that. It dives into, obviously, the athletics, and then we go into the skills and the strategy of paintball. So all of those put together to give you this amazing camp. Thank you to everybody who's supporting G2 Paintball. If you go to g2paintball.com, you can give it a look and see exactly what we're doing. We're going to have one more training camp coming up at Wild West Paintball in a couple weeks, so stay tuned for that. If you're in the Arizona area or even out of the Arizona area, come on down and hang out with us at a G2 Paintball training camp. They're spectacular. We got me, my Rusty, Victor Gamboa, and Brandon Unger who are out there. And Mikey Urena as well has been showing up and not only participating in the G2 camps, but also helping out, which has been really cool. The Wild West camp will be October 11th at Wild West Paintball, so stay tuned for that and head over to g2paintball.com and show your support over there. Also follow them on Instagram at G2Paintball as well. So huge shout out to G2. Thank you guys for everything. And last but definitely not least is Transfuse. Amazing, amazing stuff. It is hydration, immunity boost, and mental replenishment. And it is a rapid hydration multiplier and immunity fortifying formula that will replenish you at the cellular level with these all-natural ingredients. Hydration is key. And also, obviously, immunity boost in these times. So what this is doing is combating dehydration and giving you that edge so that you don't have mental exhaustion, and it's going to support your immune system. It has so many amazing vitamins in it. Vitamin B6, vitamin C, it has zinc. It has actually 1,500 milligrams of vitamin C, which is more than an emergency packet, and it's used by everyone from all walks of life. We've got athletes, festival goers, first responders, military service, and people who are just recovering from or trying to prevent the cold. So head over to translabs.com, use code PLAYTHEGAME, and you will get 10% off there. And as an addition, you can take that discount up to 20% if you subscribe for a monthly delivery service. It'll add another 10% off on that. Be sure to use code PLAYTHEGAME, and it will give you those discounts And then if you become a subscriber, you'll get that additional 10%. So you have a capacity of saving 20% off on Transfuse by using code PLAYTHEGAME and getting on that subscription. Thank you to everybody out there who supports the show by using these products and by tagging us in the photos. We love that. We love reposting them. And, more than anything, honestly, they're just going to help you in your life with being healthier and being able to get that real quality recovery. We don't use anything that we don't believe in, and we truly believe in all the brands that we are partnered with: Heal Brand, Transfuse, and G2 Paintball. So thank you so much to all of you for supporting the show, and thank you to you guys for tuning in. And without further ado, let's hang out with Dan. He is such an amazing guy with a deep history in paintball and a super exciting new movie that has just come out today, so you can go check it out. All right, let's hang out with Dan.
That was an insane inside move by Marcelo Margot. Great communication.
And the crowd starts chanting Harmon.
Great shot by all the guys. So Tyler Harmon saved that game.
Came out with 2 wins. Marcelo Margot was on fire.
Yo, Dan the man. We have got him. Dan Napoli, thank you so much for coming on the show. You have quite the extensive history in paintball, and you've also done some pretty amazing stuff off the paintball field, which we're super excited to talk about. You have some really big news I know you want to share with everybody as well, so we're super stoked to have you on the show. How's it going over there, bud?
It's going well, man. Dude, thanks to you guys for having me. I mean, first, I've been following. I love what you guys have been doing with the show. I think that's so awesome.
Thanks, dude.
I love seeing you pros kind of get out there and doing stuff. And I really dig that I've seen you guys give some platform opportunities to like some of the younger guys, or at least younger guys for me. I'm kind of been out of it, a little old school a little bit. So for me, like Harrison Fry is a young dude.
Yep.
So that's awesome. Very gracious and appreciative of you giving me visiting with me, giving me some of that time that you give to some of those young cats. And so,
dude, you're
I
a
hope
legend.
to make it worth people's while.
Yeah. I mean, dude, what you've done for the game of paintball is incredible. And honestly, I promise you the honor is definitely ours. The documentary you made about Dynasty, and I know Tyler and I both feel so fortunate that we squeaked into the last few years of that documentary. But I mean, man, just the type of film and stuff you've put together for the paintball world, which really is a very important thing for paintball moving forward, has been tremendous. And so, again, I promise you the honor is ours.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, you've done so many amazing things in the paintball industry. You're like the original content creator before it was all cool and stuff, like before everybody had these phones in their hands and everybody's video and everything and creating content. You were, on the cutting edge of it. Before
everyone was like doing podcasts and thought they were cool.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, it's pretty astounding. I'm sure we're going to get into this, but you've even done some pretty amazing stuff, like a photograph for the White House, and you were like their type of media in that sector as well, which is like,
I gotta clarify. I wish, dude, please. I should just take credit for that. But, that would be Chris Diltz from Paint that had that.
Oh my God. You're right.
But I would love to have. I mean, I should just so Diltz, dude. I'm correcting. I'm giving you love where you should be,
dude. Diltz, that's right. He was the one that did that. Yeah. He's another really profound figure in paintball as well. Huge shout out to Chris.
You should totally. He's had such an interesting, from documenting like music to track bike messenger culture to working at the White House. Like
that's crazy.
Absolutely would be a fun guest.
Yeah.
Next time you guys need a break from like pro players and
dude, we want it all. Honestly, we truly do. It's so fun to have these kind of conversations, man. And what you have definitely worked with though is minor league baseball. I know you've done some really interesting stuff over there. Right. And like Tyler said, we'll get into all of that. But what's going on? Where you at right now? What's happening over there? What's what's shaking and baking?
Yeah, man. So I'm at home in Omaha, Midwest. Right?
Shout out,
the Shock Boys do. And yeah, so the big thing going tomorrow. Best Kids in Texas, which Tyler's courteous enough to have rocking the poster behind him there.
Yep.
It's releasing on iTunes and Amazon Prime. We've got like a legit, like a distributor with it, and kind of like on the path to go to Netflix, is kind of where we're trying to go with it.
Yes.
Have spent the last 6 months, reworking the film. Some folks had seen, we had done some early things a few years ago on where it was on, it was on PB Nation for a minute, an early version of it, and then taking it to film festival routes and stuff like that. So it's been a lot of hard work from people, like a ton of luck. I work for a entertainment and media marketing and entertainment agency here in Omaha called Herdat, and then Herdat Films is the films division.
Yeah.
We did a flick called 50 Summers, which was about minor league baseball, that came out earlier this year. That was crazy. Like Rob Riggle narrated it, which was nuts.
Yeah, Matty Marshall was telling me about that. Actually, we were at lunch one day. He was telling me all about that adventure you were on, and I know how blown away he was. I personally didn't grow up watching a ton of baseball, and so I had to educate myself on how big that was that you had him on. But damn, dude, yeah, that's a heavy hitter.
Dude, the thing, like, Matty's such a stud. Like, what did he tell you the story about recording for that?
No, not me.
So, like, I mean, this is just how that stuff goes. When you start working at that level, we didn't know we were going to have Riggle. You put in stuff with their agents and you're kind of waiting. And so, and I have the cut somewhere. Matty narrated for us. I was totally planning on, this is what a just stud of a human Matt is. He's on his honeymoon with Morgan and is like, okay, bro, I got a day off in Italy. I can do it.
There we go.
I'm finding recording studios in Italy.
Whoa.
And as I'm searching for these, I get an email from Riggle's agent. And he's like, yeah, Rob would like to do that. Can he do it tomorrow afternoon? So I'm like, oh, so awesome. So I flip it over to the president of our studio, like a producer on these films, Bill Hipsher, who's rad. He starts to take care of all that stuff that, the producers and executive producers do. But I still don't know for sure that we're going to have Rob. And there's obviously like the time difference. So I stood up all night. I produced Matt in the studio at like 2 a.m. my time.
Damn.
And then waited until we did Rob at 2 p.m. in the afternoon in LA. Because I was still waiting, like, you got to sign his SAG stuff and agent stuff going back and forth. So it was like, so there's a track somewhere of the baseball film that's got Matty Marshall's VO in it, which is pretty crazy.
That's rad. And for anybody who doesn't know baseball, kind of explain the character and how fortunate, you were to have that opportunity.
Yeah, so 50 Summers is a documentary about minor league baseball. Omaha is a minor league town.
Yeah.
We got a AAA team that we're affiliated with the Royals. Their partnership had been together for 50 years, and that was like the longest standing in AAA. Like a lot of times they move around.
Yeah.
So we got the opportunity to tell that story. And again, as you kind of do in filmmaking, like the B story is, we're telling the story of Omaha, but we're really telling the bigger story of where minor league baseball started, where it was 50 years ago and where it is now. And like, it became this crazy gateway. Like we got to talk to Warren Buffett, which was insane.
Whoa.
He owned the Omaha team for a while. Super, like, dude, have you guys seen the documentary Being Buffett? Being Buffett, I think it's on HBO. Dude, you watch it.
Gotta watch that. Yeah.
It's so legit. Like, it opens up. I'm gonna butcher the details, but
that's okay.
He gets one of 3 breakfasts from McDonald's every day, depending on what the market does. Depending on what the market does, it's either like if the market was crushing it, he gets like the deluxe, which would be like, I don't know, sausage egg McMuffin, like the full combo. If the market was lean, then he's like only getting hash browns. Like he drives through himself, like he's paying in change, like straight, like the most, like
amazing,
down to earth. We interviewed him. He had
down to diabetes.
Yeah, the McDonald's.
And somehow, right? He's like 82. Like, how does that work?
Yeah, totally. Yeah,
he's doing okay. He's doing all right.
But yeah, man, I mean, so when we interviewed him, like no entourage, like just was like super laid back, and I mean, we just talked baseball with him for a little bit. So
So what's like an interesting bit of info that you got from that whole interaction, like hanging out with
Yeah.
Warren Buffett?
Seriously, that's major. That's crazy.
Just what a like. So this is the, I mean, and I guess, in a way ties to Best Kids in Paintball. Like,
Yeah.
that's what's awesome about sports. I'm sitting there and like almost going to have an out of body experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, the richest man in the world is here.
Whoa.
I'm here. And we're just talking about who is a better hitter, Stan Musial or Ted Williams.
Yeah.
Just like I would, a person I would meet in the bar, just like the two of us or the three of us would be talking about, like, I don't, who's better, Oliver or Lasoya.
Yeah.
Just this sports is just this great equalizer that bonds people. And I think that was like a super, super cool takeaway from that.
That's
experience.
so true, man. That's so dang true. Yeah. It just, it's a phenomenal equalizer. We can all, have a point of reference on it and connect on it and enjoy the experience of, no matter what sport it is, paintball, baseball, cricket, golf, everybody has a love for those types of sports. That's so cool that you got to meet that guy. That's crazy.
Yeah, man, that was super, super lucky. And Rob Riggle, so he's a huge, he's from Kansas. I think he might be from, can't remember where he's from originally, but he went to college at Kansas. So he's kind of a Kansas City guy. So, and he's a huge Royals fan. So we reached out to him. And what's crazy is at the time, and again, ties into Best Kids in this, like these processes, when you start trying to go up this level, like they take forever. Like we were reaching out to Rob Riggle. This was before he was doing the Sunday morning skits on Fox NFL Sunday. So the thing that was crazy with Riggle is like everybody knew him from something different, right? So it's like we would tell somebody, be like, "Oh, Rob Riggle's narrating it," and they'd be like, "The in the face guy from The Hangover? Oh, that's awesome!" And then you tell somebody else that story, and they're like, "Oh, like Phil Dunphy's nemesis on the sitcom like Modern Family? Like that's awesome, dude. That's cool." Like it was kind of like a big cross section. Again, he was super cool. Really, really humble to work with. He just popped into a studio in LA. I got to phone in and kind of produce him like this. So yeah, man, that was a really cool. That was a really cool experience and a big thing for us. A big step up in.
That's monster
storytelling.
Yeah, that's huge. And when did this drop?
So it dropped in February of 2020, right before the pandemic. Whoa. We started production in 2017. We actually were in production on Best Kids in Texas and we were in post-production on Best Kids in Texas and production on 50 Summers kind of simultaneously, like those.
Wow. So where can people find 50 Summers if they want to watch that?
It's on iTunes and it's actually on the streaming side now, which is rad. Not VOD, but the streaming side of Amazon Prime. So if you're an Amazon Prime member, like you can pull it up and check it out for free.
Oh, I'm in there.
Yeah, because as soon as this goes live, everyone the Best Kids in Texas is gonna be live. So
that's right.
P2G listeners, and huge thank you, by the way, for letting Tyler and I view that before the show. I personally didn't get to watch the entire thing just because I was gone all weekend. I came back. I watched most of it though before we got on the show, and just another amazing. I love how all of your films really make you feel like you're part of the entire journey of whatever organization it is that you do. I know that's the way it made us feel with the Dynasty one and with the X Factor one. And like I felt like I was on that mission with those guys. It was so cool, dude. It was super cool.
Hell yeah.
That's awesome of you to say, man. That's cool. That's hopefully what we accomplish.
Dude, you crushed it. I just watched it too. And like, it brings me, like, I'm not going to lie. I got the chills watching it when I was watching a couple scenes when the music kicked in and we're just watching the play and the whole energy. It really gave me that nostalgic, like, I felt like a kid. I swear to God, I felt like I was 18 again. I felt like I was 16 again, looking at the old videos. Like when I was young, I just religiously watched paintball videos and still do, but it's different now. Like I watch just like the guys I'm going to play or, like it's not like this nostalgic video, like what you've created with the Best Kids in Texas, which like Marcella said, is dropping today. If you're listening to this right now, please help us support, share. We're going to get this thing booming. And I want to dig into the big opportunities that we have with this as
Totally.
well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Real quick though, I do want to
Uh-huh.
get my little jab in. I got to say, I'm
Do
not
it.
too happy of you putting all those clips of me getting shot in the face.
I know.
You know, Iron Man
I thought about
2007 in
that,
the
dude.
finals against X Factor, and the very first clip is just me getting a goggle shot.
Yeah.
Boom! Right. Hey, but you did have a little clip of me like running the flag in. You know, we
Yeah.
still lost.
But you won Cup that year, right? I mean,
Yeah,
it's,
we did. We
it's not all like,
did.
Yeah.
yeah,
There
dude.
you go.
I seriously thought about that. I was looking at some stuff today. I was like, oh, that's hilarious. I'm going on their show. It's like, I think that's Marcelo getting roasted.
Oh,
Yeah.
dude, that's the way it goes,
There's-
man. That's part of my journey too, though, you know. And so
Yeah.
look, you got to have the good with
You
the
were a
bad.
great team, man. That was a great team.
Yeah,
That was a
totally.
great Iron Man team, man.
It
Like,
was, for sure. I
Yep,
mean,
and-
it was arguably the best Iron Man team ever, and the Iron Men have had multiple incarnations of championship caliber teams, you know, and
Yeah.
that was a hard one to beat. So for X Factor to win that year against us was massive, and it be their first pro win. Like, I can't imagine how it felt for them. You know, my situation was much different. I was a young kid that was playing amongst all these giants, you know, similar to you, Tyler. You know, you were playing on the same team as all these giants of the league. X Factor was the kids, like a
Yeah.
team of us, you know, and then to, you know, they were a little older than us at that time, but still, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, it was just a very cool
Yeah.
journey that they've been on. And Tyler and I have, we said this to Ryan. We had Ryan Brand on the show. We had Archie on the show. X Factor is one of our favorite teams as well. And they're one of the teams that, in our opinion, kind of replicated what Dynasty did. Right. You know, a bunch of young friends. They're like the Texas Dynasty. They truly are. Young kids stuck together, became just a bunch of ballers, had fun doing it, and have won championships.
Yeah.
And I think I hope anyways when folks watch the film, you know, you know, not to speak for those guys, but they have a genuine respect and affection for Dynasty, and I felt an obligation, like I wanted to make sure that came through in the film. You know, and I know that there's, you know, they talked about that, and maybe even got themselves in trouble in the grander scheme, living the life they thought Dynasty was living, or they thought that they should be living if they were going to be like Dynasty.
Yeah.
But yeah,
No,
man,
you definitely conveyed that. I felt like, you know, we're a collective. We're a family of paintball players, and perception is reality. So you're kind of hitting on that as well when you talk about like the perception of Dynasty, and they were rock stars, right? And still are respectfully. But it's like at that time, oh my God, it was straight rock star mentality on Dynasty.
Dude,
in those early years.
We're in bed by like 9:30 now. Dynasty. There is no rock stars on Dynasty anymore.
Yeah. Yep. I know it's a different ball game, but the athleticism is unparalleled in today's landscape of paintball as well. It's a whole different ball game out there.
Totally, for sure, Ty.
Yeah, and I want to take a step back and kind of get the, you know, we like to do this, get the grassroots on everybody and see how you got into paintball, your first exposure, if it was a birthday, birthday paintball, or how did you get into the game?
So, it interestingly tied in a way to what I'm doing.
Nice.
Like a lot of people my age. So I'm 44, which means I graduated, which I know, old balls.
Dude, no, you're a young buck, bro. You're a young buck.
Young buck right here, man.
Yeah,
right here.
yeah.
But no, so that means I graduated high school in 1994 and started college in the fall of 94. And if you're a sports fan, what 1994 and 95 are best remembered for is the Major League Baseball strike. And so what happened is ESPN lost hours and hours of programming. And so they were putting on, you know, the joke of ESPN, the Ocho from Dodgeball. They were putting on anything they could find. And one of those things was the World Cup of Paintball from Florida.
No way. I didn't know this. I'm learning this right now.
Oh, dude, ask Maddie about it. Yeah. So, and is as typical.
So hold on. So we're like the Ocho is what you're telling me? We're like Dodgeball.
Cotton.
I think Dodgeball is doing better on ESPN than we are. Hey, but we're looking to change that. We're changing it.
That's right.
Exactly. We're changing it.
We'll see what. Yeah, we're trying.
Sure.
We're trying to fix that.
That's right. That's what we're talking about tonight.
Right,
you know, on this show, we're breaking ground here. Absolutely.
So like I said, man, it's 94, 95. It's like I'm in college, I'm in a fraternity. There's no, no internet really, no cell phones. And so what do dudes do after class? You hang out in the lounge and you watch ESPN. And so what was on was World Cup of Paintball. And I don't know why it resonated, because if you go back and you look at the presentation, and I'm only talking about the presentation. I mean, unbelievable respect for Jerry Braun for getting that happening and all the people that made that happen. But from a presentation standpoint, they're interviewing Jerry like in the cornfield. He's in like khakis and like a blue button. I don't know why, but the game itself was like, oh, this is amazing. And then
Whoa.
one of the guys in the house that was in charge of like events that everybody would do, he went to the phone book and was like, oh, hey, holy cow, man, there's a paintball place in town. I went to college in Western Nebraska, small college town, not Omaha or Lincoln's little place called Kearney. And there was a place there called Splat City, owned by a guy named Ed Portman.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Who, if you don't know, if you're listening to this and you don't know who Ed Portman is, get really make an effort to smarten yourself to that. Ed was a tremendously important and influential cat in the 90s and the 2000s, and can't say enough about that, man.
Dude, yeah, he's amazing. Go watch Push. He's all in there,
dude.
And you'll learn who Ed is. He's revolutionary for the game of paintball. He brought a lot to the game.
So we go. It was a fraternity outing, and it's like Ed, Rocky, and LaSoya. Poor Rocky and LaSoya were doing time in Nebraska. They all were refs, man. They all were working at Ed's field.
Yeah.
And the fraternity, like we loved it. It was one of those things that kept growing. We did it once. Okay, we did it once in the fall. The next year we did it in the fall. Then we did it the fall and the spring.
Mm-hmm.
And then it became, more and more people would go. So that was like my first introduction to it.
Yeah.
And then I graduated.
What age were you roughly at that?
I was like 18, 19.
Yeah,
19.
cool. And no wonder you fell in love with paintball. You were hanging out with LaSoya and Rocky and Ed Portman out there.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, how crazy is that your first kind of interactions, you're put in that environment?
Yeah.
Hey, so I got to ask, is this that's the ESPN where like there's the famous match? I think it's between the LA Ironmen and the Paraplegic Turtles. Is it that ESPN
Yes.
that was like oh man, so obviously I knew about that event being on ESPN. Most people do, but I had no idea why. It's because there was a baseball strike. I mean, that's kind of similar to what was going on just now with coronavirus. There's no sports, and I was like, hey guys, we need to send all paintball videos needs to be submitted to ESPN now. like
yeah, opportunity, man. You can, because it was I think the last time MLB had a strike was in the early 80s, and like they figured they were going to work it out. The big issue, it was a mid-season strike. I think they went on strike in August. So it caught a lot of production people, pardon me, I think kind of, it just was unexpected. So they really were not, again, that different than the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't like, oh, it's in the off season, they're not coming back. Or like, when the NFL was delayed a couple years ago, it was delayed to start. This was mid-season. They just lost a ton of programming just like that. Jeez. So yeah, that was kind of the opportunity. Didn't really think much, like a ton about paintball until I graduated college in '99, and in the interim, Ed had opened Warp Sports. I had it backwards. So I come from and that's, why Brad Mott and I bond so much. I'm sure we'll talk about him a bunch, but from the whole X Games, action sports and music explosion in the 90s, like kind of came from that world. And I saw there was a Warp Sports in little old Kearney. And so I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, I'm sure the national franchise in LA, somebody opened one here in Nebraska. Like, come to find out, like, no, it's the opposite. Like, Ed's the HQ, and he opened all these other places. And what he had come around to, and I know there were other people, Rennick was kind of doing it to some degree in Chicago. But what I think Ed should get a lot of credit is he realized that kind of to like people like me, the thrill seekers or whatever, coming out of that whole, it's a little cliche to say or whatever, but of like skate culture and
Totally.
green manic panic hair dye, and when you start to put paintball in that kind of presentation, a whole new world of players and fans are like they respond to that.
For sure.
And so, yeah, he was a guy. So it was like you went into his shop and it was like skateboarding, paintball. I was working at a record store that went out of business. And I had my last semester of college that I had to pay for. And Ed and his wife would come in and buy music. So I was like, hey, like, can I run like a little punk section in your Warp Sports for the last 6 months of school? And they're like, yeah, okay, great. So I'm like, cool. I got my part-time job. Didn't really think too much of it. This is the spring of '99 when Avalanche is blowing up.
Mm-hmm.
They saw that I was graduating college with a sports marketing and journalism degree. Ed's like, dude, I'm gone at that point 40 weeks out of the year or something crazy. Because, you've got Avalanche at that and the economics at that time where people were flying to practice. Avalanche was flying, 13 dudes. Nobody lived in the same place. You had a couple like Mark Knopp and Jeremy Solom coming out of the Pacific Northwest, but at the end of the day, you didn't have clusters. I mean, I know now you guys have to because of the way the economics work, but yeah, at the time. So Ed was like, and I can't give him enough credit. He's like, you seem kind of smart. I'm gone a bunch. Do you want to start working for me and like getting involved in, in what we're doing here? And so that's kind of how I got into paintball.
Dude, thank you, Ed Poorman. Holy moly.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Thank you, Ed, for sure.
Wow. That's crazy. Oh man. So yeah, you had a great group of dudes that kind of brought you into the game the right way. And you saw, obviously those guys were rocking, and you come from like a rocker kind of background as well. Working obviously with the music and having that culture, like you said, it goes hand in hand with paintball. And wow, that's pretty intense.
Yeah, a lot of bonding with Rocky Cag over the Misfits and the Ramones.
Yeah,
and
hell yeah. So yeah, while we're on the topic, what is your favorite punk rock group of all time?
Oh man, that is.
I had to ask you, or your top two.
You're taking it easy on them.
Yeah, come on.
Let's go.
Push comes to shove, as long as they're still considered punk by purists, it would be Jawbreaker.
There we go.
Love that band. That's also why Brad and I had a series.
Yep.
Named Jawbreaker as a homage.
Yeah.
Second would probably be Pennywise Bad Religion is one band. Is that possible?
There we go.
Cheating, but that I love that LA like skate punk thing.
Yeah,
I'm really digging that.
And so you and Beaster, you guys talk to me about that. How did you guys like meet, and how did you guys become such great friends? For those who don't know, Beaster played on Dynasty, Brad, and he's an amazing dude. Always there for the team, always supporting in any way he can, and we love Beaster with all our heart.
Yeah,
man.
Brad he's an absolute legend on Dynasty. He's one of the originals. He kind of guided the young guys, which were Ryan, Alex, Yosh, when they first kind of came on board. Brad is awesome. I love anytime he comes out to events. He's just like he's like the Godfather kind of figure that's there, and he's full of jokes, full of a good time, but also a lot of wisdom, and also creates amazing films and whatnot. So yeah, absolutely, we need to have him on. Actually, Ty.
Yeah, we'll have him on too.
Yeah, we will for sure.
Super underappreciated and under the radar creatively, as like I literally can't think of anybody else that has a film degree and 3 Triple Crown World Championships in Dynasty. So for me, it's like Brad and Patrick Spohr are like the two dudes that are like here at the top of the mountain. But so Brad and I met in a really interesting way into the early 2000s. This was literally probably 2000. You started to have the video boom, kind of what you were talking about, Tyler, and it was, I think it was getting more. You were getting more and more people coming from that skate culture or action sports culture. And what's a standard in that is the yearly video. Like, you're a brand and you put out a video featuring like your riders. Like, that's snowboard, skate,
totally.
ski. I mean, that's just that world. So you started seeing kind of more of that, and it was cool. It was a really fertile time. You had a lot of different stuff going on. You had Pat and Brian working on film. You had Jeff at Trauma Head, and you had Cat. Chris Hagen, who's unfortunately no longer with us,
Mm-hmm.
running Cat Factory, which is an awesome little parts manufacturer in North California.
Totally. That was my favorite of all time because I grew up in NorCal, so Cat Factory was like my all-time favorite team.
The cap drop cradle, right?
Yeah.
So to their credit, man, Chris saw some stuff and he started working, and Brad started working for him. They started doing these cat videos,
Mm-hmm.
which interestingly enough is, and I don't even know if the kids know this, but it's really the precursor kind of to all the kids now that are putting out raw games.
Yeah.
The Cap series was so it was 10-man at the time, and it was very like no frills. Brad had scaffolding and just guys shooting, but like if you were like a hardcore player, you loved it. That was kind of your game film. You could really see moves.
Yeah.
And so they started to like expand stuff. So Chris Hagen and Ed Poorman are talking to one another, unbeknownst to us. I'm actually out on the Vans Warped Tour, and Chris is like, well, I got my guy Brad. And Ed's like, well, I got my guy Dan. And Avalanche is at the height of their, they're the precursor to Dynasty. I mean, Dynasty took it to another planet, man. Yeah. But they're kind of getting in the heart of their rock stardom.
For sure.
They had started having successful clinics with Ed and led by Steve Rabikoff and some of the guys with the Avalanche 101, and they wanted to take that on to video. Tony Hawk Trick Tips was huge at the time, which was how to skate video. Yep. So that was like the precursor, and they were like, oh well, we'll connect. I'll connect my guy Dan, and you connect with your guy Brad, and we'll do and we'll make a video. And it's like, okay, great. So Ed pings me while I'm on Warped Tour, and he's like, this is what you're going to do when you come back. It's like, all right. So I come home, and love them both, but Ed and Chris Hagen are not production folks. They don't really know. So I go to Ed. I'm like, hey, what are my what are my limits here? He's like, do whatever you want. And I'm stupid. I'm right out of school. I don't really understand how much everything costs, but I'm just doing what they teach you. And what they teach you in school when you do like commercial scripts and stuff is you have like all the camera moves on the left, all the dialogue on the right. And nobody talked about a budget. So I was like, great. So I'm writing all this stuff that's like the jib comes down and like Rocky pulls it and is talking to it and turn it in. And Ed's like, oh, this looks cool.
It's like they don't teach you about taxes and stuff like that either, huh?
Right. Yeah, right. Man, that's what producers are for.
What degree did you get in school for the listeners? I don't know if you said that.
I don't think I did. I'm sorry. I was a journalism comprehensive. So that covered both, writing and video production. Although when you go to journalism school, it's much more about working in television. Like they don't train you the same way that you do when you go to film school. And then sports marketing was my minor.
Awesome.
And I was a college baseball player. I got a scholarship to play D2. Got hurt my freshman year, so I didn't continue on after that. But
no shit. Whoa, dude. I did not know that. That's amazing.
Where's the camera? Can we see the scar? Yeah.
Whoa.
Pre Tommy John.
There it is. Yeah. If you got the YouTube, he's got the scar. So what happened there to your arm?
Just had elbow surgery. I got so I was a little left-handed pitcher.
Mm-hmm. You were humming them though. You were sending those things.
Well, I was all junk, dude. It was lots of off-speed curveballs and all that, that kind of stuff. A little too much wear and tear. So I had tendons get so inflamed, I guess, that they like attached to one another.
Whoa.
So they went in and they cleaned it up and cut sort of cut the tissue that had grown together, and that's when I was all right. I'll call it quits. I'm probably not going to the next level.
Yeah. Damn, dude, that's still to get into college ball, that's big league stuff. You're right there. You know what I mean?
Well, you decided to go to the next level in other aspects of your life. So, that's what life is about, man. Exactly. Yeah,
for sure.
Absolutely. There's no way I would be on this path if I had kept playing college baseball. So.
Yeah, but you have that background in sports, and you have, obviously the sports marketing and Wow, I didn't know that you had that as a minor. And you've obviously written for Paintball as well. Kind of dive into that and talk a little bit about that experience for writing for these guys, because it was huge at one point. We had all these magazines out there,
Man.
and unfortunately, we don't have that today. But it was a thing at one point.
Yeah. So over time, I had ultimately I had written for 3 different magazines. PGI out of the UK, which
Loved
is
it.
so fun.
Yeah.
Um, Wrote for PB2X. John Amadei was cool enough to let me have a column. That was more in the mid 2000s. Before that, I was writing for Paint,
Yeah.
which was like the underground,
Mhm.
like that again. That whole sort of. I think Chris Haas would be mad. I probably can't really say skate magazine vibe. He would be upset.
Yeah.
But
But it
some
had
very
that energy. Yeah.
yeah, some very like-minded folks coming from those backgrounds of like independent music and sports. And so I did a feature or two, but then I was the music editor.
Oh, wow.
Because again, when you come out of that world, like if you grow up reading like Surfer or Thrasher or any of that kind of stuff, or Trans World Snowboarding, it's just like a given. They have music sections, they have profiles on bands, they have record reviews. And Chris Haas, who was the founder and editor, Chris Diltz, who was the photo editor,
Yeah.
they really believed in doing that. Later on, Dan Meridian, who came on, and so I was a writer for Paint. Maddie wrote for Paint.
That's right. Yeah, we talked a little bit about that as well. And they actually have a Paint like book coming out, right?
Yeah, there is. I actually missed a Zoom call that they asked me to be on this weekend. But I had to do some stuff for my folks. But yes, it's called Famous.
That's right.
They're doing like a photo book. I think it'll be out by the end of the year.
Cool.
That. Shipping, I think, with obviously COVID stuff is always a bit of affected, but yeah, they've like rescanned, redigitized photos, and then also I'm sure because you guys play with Frazier, he would talk about this all the time. The holy grail of like Diltz had a bag of film that when the magazine went under, that they never had enough money to develop. There's probably 30 rolls. So as part of this process for Famous, they went through and they're getting it developed, seeing, they were always a little, I think, hesitant to jump too far into, because they're like, dude, this could be all garbage. Like, we don't even know what's on here. Yeah. But yeah, so that was Paint was a really cool experience. All of those magazines, what I think was for sure fun with Paint and PGI, and I think at that time you could see some stuff with the video series as being like that, is like they all were a little bit different. PGI did something really different than Paint did. Yeah. Dirter Rob was doing different stuff than we were doing, which was doing different stuff than Jeff at Trauma Head was doing. Like, so, I think that was like I think that was a pretty cool time for media and paintball anyways.
Oh, it was amazing. It was so dense. There were so many things going on. I feel bad for, today's society of paintball that they've never experienced, the magazines. Like, I would go to Barnes and Nobles and I was playing on Oakland Assassins and stuff. And I was like, in high school, I would go down the street to the Barnes Nobles and be like, there I am. Holy moly. I'm in this magazine. That's crazy. It's mind blowing. I'm looking around at people like, hey, look at this guy over here. He's in the magazine. It's like, it was a crazy experience. And we don't have that anymore, which is a bummer.
I would go and grab the magazines. I would grab like a stack of them. I'd put them in front of all the other magazines on the aisle. I did that all the time, multiple times a week. I would just go and spread them out over all the other magazines.
Yeah, dude, I'm really interested. Do you guys know I love what and I know it's infrequent, but like Inside the Net.
Yeah, no,
that's what I was just
gonna. Did kids read that? Or is it just like older guys that like I'm just interested?
I was actually just about to bring him up for sure.
Me too, because he's the only one that does still. I think he's the only one. I hope I'm not leaving any. We give so much respect to anybody that promotes the media side of paintball. It's so important. We really do. But so I'm sorry if we're missing some, but I think he might be the only one that's still doing real print magazines after events. And I know after Vegas, he put together a really good one, but it's more of like a limited run kind of thing, I believe. And it's like print on demand. So if you order it, they'll print it, but he's not making mass production, sending them to paintball stores, things like that, putting them in Barnes and Noble, all these other places. So,
but they can, if you message him,
get it. Yes. Yeah. And you should, because it's so awesome to have that. And what's really cool, I was going to bring this up as well, is, because I've written for a ton of magazines in the past, as like a guest writer. Tyler, I'm sure you have as well. And most recently, I know Dan Norcross from the Iron Man wrote a really beautiful article in the From Inside the Net thing. And it's like, the pro players also need to take part in wanting to help with this kind of stuff so that we can have content to bring to the masses. That's something that we talk about all the time on the show, is the pro players doing it just a little bit more to help bring this content to the masses in a way that they want to digest it, in whatever way that is.
Dude, I'm really glad that you pointed that out, because you cannot express the perspective and the knowledge depth that you guys have. Like, to bring a pure outsider in, like, it's too, I think the best stuff is potentially like your guys' stuff, then combining with, like, there's a, whatever you want to call it, a journalist or an artist that's keeping it. But like, absolutely, like the pro players, I mean, you just can't, and that's what's been such an impediment for, I think, paintball getting the exposure, and maybe Best Kids will help that, is it's so difficult to express to a regular person, and for another non-paintball person to try to cover it and express it, it's really difficult. So yeah, man, you guys can do stuff that that nobody can, so you guys should,
for sure.
To me, it's about explaining epic stories, because nobody cares that you play paintball. Nobody cares that people play basketball until there were these superheroes that were made in basketball that was like, holy shit, that person is godlike. I want to be like that person. It's all about the story and the buildup and the hype. It really is. Like, the hype is an important part of getting paintball in the mainstream. We need to do a better job of creating these, again, that's why the documentaries are so important. It usually highlights either a team or a couple of players from a team or an organization, and it puts that organization or player on some kind of pedestal. You look back at like Serial Killers, the way that it portrayed Oliver Lang, Chris Asoya, Alex, some of the guys in that, it made any person who had maybe played paintball one time in their life, if they watch that film, now they're addicted to paintball and they want to become that person. And it's so important for us to continue to do that. Otherwise, nobody cares what we do. Nobody cares.
Heroes
nobody cares,
man.
dude. Exactly. Heroes and villains.
Maddie and I have had many coffee or Jameson discussions about the elements of storytelling like that. But I mean,
hold on. It's not coffee or Jameson. Sometimes it's both,
Absolutely. Yeah, depending on the time of day. Absolutely.
Yeah, man. 100%.
Dude, Maddie's the best. I still can't believe we did 6 hours on the show with him. It was amazing. And we still could have done another 3.
I feel like it was like 6.5, dude. I feel like the first show was 3, 4. It was crazy, dude.
It was.
You could do a docu-series, literally, not Marshall Month.
It's like Shark Week, We got to get that going.
Yeah, man. But no, that's what we tried to do. Oh, go ahead, Tyler. I'm sorry.
No, I want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, because I kind of cut you off too, Dan. So sorry about that.
No, I was just gonna say a tangent before I forget. But yeah, definitely check out the last issue of Inside the Net. This is the illustration, like it's almost like I think it's like a watercolor type on the cover of Iron Man. It's so cool.
Yeah.
He's doing really good stuff. So if you want to go reach out to him, you can go to at From Inside the Net on Instagram, send him a message, tell him thank you, for what he does for paintball, because there's not very many of them left anymore. And like we were talking about, it's up to us, all of us out there. We got to be the phones. We got to be the eyes and ears of this whole thing and start just pushing it and creating a lot of content for the community.
What I was going to mention with Best Kids in Texas, because it's kind of off what you said, Marcelo, and I think that this is where, hopefully, knock on wood, we've at least had some success in, so we're distributed by Gravitas Ventures, which is a independent film and documentary distribution company. So they sat down and watched this film and said, like, yeah, hey, we think that there's something here. they will get hundreds of submissions. And what we tried to do anyways is it has to be big story stuff that people can relate to. I mean, we obviously are trying to like do justice and credit to the story and the struggle, as Matt, will always point out, and the core fans. But like, and honestly, 15 was our first real foray into this. But like, it's got to be more than who shot who out of the back Dorito and who got a 2-for-1. If you want to reach, like, you got to get people here.
Yes, in the heart. Yeah.
And that stuff's important and it has its place. So I don't want it to be misunderstood that like I'm being negative on that type of coverage, because it's not. It's really important.
Of course.
If you try to bring in the game to an outside audience, it can't be, because that's just not real accessible.
And you have a huge like, this isn't some little distributor. This is big time type stuff that you guys are talking about here.
Yeah, man, they got, we can at least say, even if nothing happens to this, like, we put out a film that's on the same like label as Dave Grohl. They distributed his documentary called Sound City, which is about this rad recording studio in LA that's not around anymore, but like all these seminal records were recorded there, including Nirvana's Nevermind and like Fleetwood Mac stuff in the 70s.
Whoa.
So yeah, we're in good company, and again, that's the thing that's interesting is, and the hope is that somebody like Gravitas Ventures, like we're working with them, is that you hope, obviously you want the core, the paintball world to be into it, but they're doing it so more people get access to it, because that's what works out for them. It's not just like, hey, how do we put this in like paintballers' hands? We had kind of been doing that stuff for a long time with the stuff that we did through Eclipse, who again is there's no way this film gets made without Leds and Jacko and Al Woods and Paul Ruse, that whole, I can't say enough. Eclipse, it sounds so cliche, but they really do love the sport and they really do try to support anything that they feel is positive.
Totally. You can feel that. And man, what a film you made. Oh my God. 15 is the best, dude. That movie is unreal. Like the storyline, the things you captured, the whole thing is just riveting, dude. It keeps you just on the edge of your seat. It's exciting. You feel like you're in the game, and it's a really great film.
Yeah. Why isn't 15 the one that's going to the big leagues? What are we talking about here?
You know why, man? Because the second half of that film is why. I always, it was, it's weird when you do this, what we do as filmmakers, there's probably a lot of analogies to like you guys as athletes and players, as you get better, and you probably can't, you can't get to a certain level without you making a mistake and learning and growing from what comes here, and it's constant growth and understanding, right?
Yeah.
Like, 15 was the first half of 15 was big stroke stories. Oliver leaving. I mean, honestly, dude, I think about it all the time, Marcel. One of my favorite 5 moments we ever got on camera was you talking about with your pops, like the first way that you ever picked up a paintball gun. And I'm like, that's amazing and super powerful. However, as we were getting into the like, will they, won't they keep the streak going, which is big, we started getting into the minutia of, okay, they played X Factor and there was this penalty and then it wasn't a penalty and then and you start getting into that kind of, and if you don't understand paintball at that point, you're like,
out.
Yeah,
Totally.
you're like, I don't get what's happening. But that was like such a gateway for me as a director, and I think also for the company I work for Hurrdat Films, and then also for Planet. Like we would have been allowed to make something like Best Kids.
Yeah,
that's all broad story.
Totally.
I think without some of that being present in 15.
Yeah. Dude, and you're right, dude. That's such a valuable lesson, is like you're failing in the right direction. We talk about that often, and there's going to be hurdles, there's going to be bumps, you're going to make mistakes, but as long as we, fail up and keep moving and learning, then you can create what you've created now, Best Kids in Texas. And we both had the luxury, Marcella and myself, of watching it early. And man, like I said, had me getting the chills and just feeling like I was a kid again watching that Paintball movie, man. It's amazing.
That's awesome to hear, man. That's really cool. Yeah, I'm really interested, like, in your guys' perspective of it. Is obviously guys not on that team, but guys are through that whole scene. What
Well, I didn't know the deep history of X Factor, which was awesome, and they've been around for longer than I even was really aware of. The backstory, it was really interesting for me to hear that. They've earned every step of the way. They didn't obviously start out as pro. They earned that, and they earned all the way through the ranks, and then had success, plummeted a little, and had the dark ages, like they said in the video. And then, it's just it's a wild story for them to, as of last year, as everybody knows, series champions, won a couple tournaments, had the biggest year arguably, ever for them. So it was just an amazing roller coaster ride, and great storyline, great people, great music, great energy. It was just it was a great ride,
Totally. I personally grew up playing a little bit against them. So when I was on Aftermath in D3, we bumped up. We also skipped Division 2, and in the documentary they explain how big of a jump that was. And in Aftermath, we did the same thing. We skipped Division 2. We went and won our first Division 1 event. And then X Factor became our rivals in Division 1 that year, and so there was this battle of this other young team, and Mouse and I didn't stick around for that too long, because after a couple events, we went to the Ironman in 2006, and X Factor. So hold on, I think it might be a year off, because X Factor's first pro tournament, was it Chicago 2006?
It was the second event. I think it would have been OC 2006, but they were still
OC.
Playing amateur in NPPL.
Right.
So there's a ton of most of the Super 7 footage is them battling you guys, is them battling Aftermath until they go pro.
Yeah.
Most of that amateur stuff. Yeah, you guys were.
There was actually a part in there of Division 2, because they skipped over Division 2,
right?
And that was the division that I was in when they skipped it. So I never got to see them until and then I went pro after Division 2.
Oh,
so I was always I never saw them until they were in pro. Yeah. Because I was on Twisted Factory. You even had a picture of a Twisted Factory player in the movie, and that was the season that I was Division 2, that they jumped over us and went into Division 1, and then I went from Division 2 to pro that next year. So I never saw them until they came into pro.
Wait, I'm tripping. I thought you were pro in 2004.
I was a Division 2. Well, yeah, I started playing in 2000, so I was pro 2004, 2003.
Okay. Yeah, but to me, the biggest thing is as well as you see these, these are our peers, right? And as professional paintball players, we go through our own personal journey. And it's funny, you think some of it is so unique to just your journey, but watching a documentary like that, you realize man, we've experienced the same stuff with teammates that have to sacrifice all this stuff to, drive 6 hours into Dallas San Antonio to work, or into San Diego, wherever it is. And every weekend, this brotherhood that kind of is this traveling, kind of caravan circus to these events, traveling circus. But we all have gone through such similar stuff. We really have. And so, especially when you get to the upper echelon of what it takes to win, that's what was so cool to me, is seeing Archie's determination throughout that entire process. Some people might have a distaste for how blunt Archie can be, but he's a winner, and he has dedicated his life to excellence, really. And he's shown it in so many different ways.
Dude, I gotta riff off that for a second.
Yeah, go ahead.
I hope, and I want to see your take on it, is it'd be really interesting. Did you previously know kind of where that, some of that came from in Archie, and if not, in seeing Jeremy Hazelwood, who I love to death and have known forever, and the whole addictive, did that start to play into, because that's really where young Archie developed in that addictive world.
Yeah. And I had no clue about that, which was so amazing to get the roots on all of his story, because even we've had him on the show, and he's not soft spoken. He's obviously got a big heart, and he's speaks loudly, but we didn't get the roots like that of that whole experience of him coming up like that.
Yeah, I mean, and again, I can't say enough about the X Factor guys. Like, the amount of trust they had with me, and I hope that we did them, justice and honored.
Yeah.
Because you can't make a film like this without the film is what it is because of just how forthcoming the guys are. And I'm not insinuating that anybody we've worked with in the past hasn't been, but I mean, those dudes had no problem. Just like everything that was their challenge.
That's what I loved about it. Alex Martinez is really vulnerable. When we had Ryan Brand on our show, actually, he was incredibly vulnerable. And that's like the most amazing thing that you can do when you have a platform is not be fake with your listeners and people that look up to you, because everybody does go through some sort of struggle, or, it's not like you just bulldoze your way through things. Nobody really does that, and if you say you do, it's kind of a facade, in my opinion. I've never met someone that truly owns that persona, but Ryan, I thought was amazing when he was on the show. He really, and you guys portrayed that very well in the documentary as well.
Yeah.
All of Ryan's pieces in there, like that is the struggle that most people can relate to. Not many people can relate to someone like Archie, who has been a 2-time MVP, won everything there is to win, is in the conversation of best ever. Not many people can relate to a person like that. But a lot of people can relate to the people around him, coaches, stuff like that. And so you did a really good job, I thought, of portraying both sides, because again, you've got the superheroes, you've got, you have a good eclectic of everything that goes into a championship team too, because if you have 5 Archies on the field, that's not going to work either. Like you need people, you need Chiefs, you need Indians, you got to have like a good mix. And that's something that I've definitely learned on all the different teams that I've played on, is you have to have like this perfect balance of mindsets and players in order for it to work.
Totally.
Yeah, dude. I think they were, an eclectic little mix. And I think, Al even talks about it. Their third act of X Factor is, the sprinkling of Billy Bernaccia into that alchemy.
Yeah, right.
And what that does. And I love Billy to death, man. I've known him for, since he's back on the Hurricanes. And again, a dude who's unabashedly had no problem being like, Texas, like, man, these guys. But like, if you look at it now, I think this is the team Billy's played for the longest.
That's right. Yeah, I remember playing against Billy.
Yeah, me too.
Dude, he's the best. And when I was on Twisted, we would always go heads up with the Hurricanes all over the place. So I've been, I'll never forget him and Thomas Mantoni, running around out there.
Dude, I love, Tyler, that you picked up on the Twisted photo. I mean, I know one thing that we tried to do for, paintball fans, like, so we've talked a lot about accessible story to other people, but I tried to put a lot of gold in there for like hardcore fans. And what we talk about sometimes is the dialogue is broad, but the visual, I hope there's a lot of nuggets, because we tried to make sure and get, like, dude, I dug through tapes and tapes because I wanted footage of Gerald Garcia. I wanted him playing because he was so, I mean, dude, when you were up with Bobby, you ran.
Oh my God. That was so cool that you had that whole story of those guys. Cause when I got on the team with Bobby is when Gerald and Rich both came on the team, and we had both of them flying in from Texas every weekend to play with us in Oakland. So I had that other perspective of being teammates with those guys, and then getting the other side of it that I never knew on the Texas front, which was super interesting to me. And it was crazy because, like, those were my boys, we would playing side by side. I was just a baby. I was a little kid. I was 14 years old, 15 years old. And these are grown men that are wild. These dudes are like heavy hitters. That was the crazy thing about Oakland, is we we had some really fun dudes on that team, and some legends that, just like Gerald and Rich, amazing guys.
Marcelo, what was it like? I'm kind of interested in you seeing the film and like the Texas scene as a young player, and then obviously you experiencing the California scene as a young player. Like, did you guys kind of, I mean, because living anywhere else, you always were like, oh my God, California, like what's happening out there is what it's at. Like,
Mm-hmm.
did you guys realize that what you really had a really kind of the special mecca of everything, or I don't know, man.
Yeah, when we were coming up through the ranks, is that when you're talking about? When
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
a young kid, I mean, we knew what we had in Southern California. We had it all. We had Dynasty, Iron Man, Infamous. We Oakland Assassins were up north. California, Southern California especially was the mecca.
Yeah.
We had all of the opportunity. You could go to the field any and all weekends. And this was actually when Texas Paintball was just now coming onto the map, though. It was not comparable to Southern California, but we saw it happening. And Tyler and I have talked about this on previous shows, and anytime I get this question a lot, where divisional players say, hey, where should I move? Should I move to Southern California? I want to try to go pro. What should I do? And I say, your best bet might be to move to Texas. You got a couple great camps. That is almost one of the meccas of paintball right now. You have the Paintball Fit Camp, you have X Factors Field. It's really alive and well. Southern California, unfortunately, has taken a dip. I do see it starting to make a little bit of a comeback. I love what Fran is doing with Victory Paintball Park. He's kind of building the culture there again, which is amazing. And that field has needed the renovation that it's gotten. And so I'm hoping that we can get Southern California paintball back to where it was. But it was interesting, coming up, it was like, we're from SoCal and we're going to play West Coast ball and no one else really has what we have. That was our mentality. That was our mindset. That was probably the way I thought until recently, to be honest. I truly feel that way. But we definitely witnessed that. X Factor was, although they were maybe 3 or 4 years older than us when we were coming up through the ranks, they were still the young guys of the league, right? And so to see that come out of Texas was, you take notice. You absolutely take notice. You recognize, and you sit there and you watch and you study. And we knew that we would be playing against them. I knew that I would be playing against those guys probably for the rest of my career, right? So these are going to be the kids that are going to stick through it and be there in the end when all of these other guys, these older players, are no longer in the league. The Chris Lasoyas, stuff like that. Oliver Lang. Granted, I thought Oliver would still be playing. Oliver, please come back from the jungle. We're waiting for you. The sport misses you. I don't care, how you want to do it. Just come back.
Yeah.
Make it happen.
Come on down, buddy. And yeah, I think that Texas paintball is right there with California paintball right now in today's landscape. It's booming. It's the closest thing to California paintball in the country.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think it's ahead now. I truly do. They just it's just the way it is, right? Like we just don't have the culture that we used to have, and that's on the players as well. Sorry to interrupt you. I just want to get this out.
No, dude, not at all.
Because it's actually something that it's a mindset with the divisional players that didn't used to be around. The divisional players used to be so hungry to play every weekend, sacrifice every weekend to be at the paintball field. And for some reason on the West Coast, you don't see that as much. And so that also contributes to these fields not being heavily populated on the weekends. Whereas when me and you were growing up, we were at the field every weekend, practice or no practice. We were there. Sometimes during the week on Wednesday, we were there Saturday and Sunday. Like we lived, they call them gym rats. We were paintball field rats. That's exactly what we did. And so it's also a mindset of the divisional players that think they want to be pros. Well, look, if you're not willing to do what it takes, then just stop talking about it, because you're not going to do it. And Texas players have really started to put in that grind, and I think they have surpassed California. Doesn't mean we can't get it back. Battle for the mecca of paintball is still, it's a long battle. So we'll see.
That's good, man. Competition's healthy, man. But I think I hope if younger viewers watch the film, younger paintball fans, that they do, because the guys referenced like Texas that they came up in like they shouldn't have happened. It didn't make sense, because it's not like it is now where it's super fertile. And AC Dallas, Rabakov's league, all these solid fields. You've got Go Sports, and obviously with Cena and a presence down there. You've got all this cool stuff happening. Colt talked about it, I think, in the movie at that time. It just was like your best bet was that somebody saw you and took you.
Yeah.
And the concept of coming out of Texas. So what those guys did, it was a different it was a different scene than it is now.
For sure. It was a hard road. And to couple that off of that last question you asked, I was just like, oh, this is how paintball is everywhere, right? You got Rich Telford, you got Avalanche, you got, the Iron Men come up over here, and you got Dynasty that's always at your field, right? This is paintball, right?
Exactly.
But
Exactly.
yeah, but no, that's not normal. As I've aged and found out, that was highly abnormal. And I just got super fortunate that my dad, who's from Iowa, shout out to Iowa, we were just out there, who's from Iowa, met my mom in Santa Cruz and moved to Modesto, where there's a mecca of paintball, and that's where I grew up,
Dude, so the parallels between indie music, punk music, and paintball are so strong in the way of like, as a Midwestern dude, it's the same thing in music, people.
Yeah.
You talk about in those kinds of like, is like, oh, Southern California, I can find a skate punk band on a tree anywhere. Well, as you get more into the Midwest and away of those scenes, like in Iowa, like those bands don't grow on trees, man. There's like 3 or 4 of them, and they're playing, little VFWs, and it's like a different, like,
totally.
It's not a like, oh yeah, I saw Sublime in this backyard this week, and then I saw Pennywise next week.
Dude.
California just has this so much cool stuff happening there. But yeah, it's different when you get in a couple different places.
Oh, for sure.
And paintball scenes, I think, are kind of similar. You have the big one, you have the big team. But just, the fertility of where the scene was where you guys came up, man, was pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. I'm so blessed for the community, the paintball community that we have. It's been like a dream, and I'm so fortunate to be able to share this community with all these people and have fun and play paintball and share the love of the game, especially with all the, it's a wild times. 2020 has been a roller coaster, and, we all got each other's back, and we're still going to continue to safely enjoy life and play some paintball. It's a great sport.
Yeah, I mean that's the whole reason we started this too, Dan, is to spread the love of the game, because what paintball's given us, and we know so many other paintball players as well, is pretty irreplaceable, and there's just such an amazing culture within paintball, and amazing opportunity, and things that we want to share with the world, honestly. And what's amazing, we've had players that they weren't players before listening to the show. Shout out to one of our first listeners, Richard. I don't know how he found the show. I don't know if we ever got that story from him, but he listened to the podcast and decided to go play paintball. Funny enough, he's out in Texas.
Right on.
he plays at the X Factor field and like goes to all of the Wednesday nights with Archie now. But Ryan, Brandon, Archie hosts like every Wednesday night they do a drill night. But he had never played paintball, and listened to the podcast and was like, man, this sounds like a really fun game. I want to go out and give this a shot.
There we go.
He is all in now. He plays every weekend. He's just a total dominator. And that's amazing. We want people to be able to experience, what has made our lives so full of fruits,
It's rich. Yeah.
Dude, that's why it's really cool what you guys are doing, because this is a very Oliver thing to say, but you don't realize the ripples that you will create when you create something like this, and you might not see them for a while. I mean, this is still one of the things I'm most proud of to this day. Ronnie Dizon says the old Jawbreaker video series that Brad and I did back in the day is why he's a pro player now.
Wow.
He used to come home as like a 6th grader, and I was like, dude, and now Ronnie's doing his own docs and all of his stuff. He's just an amazing guy. It's like, you just don't know, man. You would never in a million years. And
dude, you did that.
How do you put a value on that? Like, how do you put a dollar sign that equates to,
you don't, that value's internal, it's something that you feel and appreciate. And it's, again, it's for the sport of paintball, right? I think we're all sitting here right here. trust me, all three of us have sacrificed quite a bit for the sport of paintball. I am sure of it. It's just the way paintball works. You got to make some damn sacrifices for the game. But you do reap some amazing benefits too, and sometimes it's not monetary benefits, but that's not always the cream of the crop. You know what I mean?
No.
And the stuff that we've gotten from paintball is worth all the sacrifice. And that's the stories that we want to tell. And that's why having Ronnie on the show is amazing. You're right. He's such a great ambassador for the sport. What he does with his videos, I mean, they're amazing. There's nobody else doing that, and so he owns that space. And he's inspired divisional players. We also had Jackson Frey on. He's a divisional player, plays semi-pro. Was amazing to get his story, but Ronnie really pushed him into creating his own YouTube channel. And his YouTube channel is also highly engaging, and you know how it is, Dan. Like in the day of videos that just go viral, all it takes might be one or two videos that go viral that makes participation jump up 15-20%. So look, we gotta keep pushing content, keep sharing our sport, because I'm a firm believer of like, okay, if I'm in love with something so much, I don't think I'm a complete idiot. Maybe I am. I don't know. But I think I'm fairly level-headed. If I'm in love with something so much, why wouldn't other people be in love with this thing? And like, I know so many people that feel the same way. Like, other people just must not know about it. And then I've had enough conversations with people on airplanes or in airports or traveling, wherever it may be, where you tell them a little bit about paintball and they're just mind blown. And they say, I want to go take my son. I want to go take my daughter. Whatever it is, I want to go play. Like, this is crazy. I never knew this was a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, I got two stories I want to tell in that regard.
Awesome.
I've always said this, man. I have never been at, especially back when I had my own production company and I was doing Planet and some other stuff. When you're in these sort of like, whatever, like business networking groups or these meetings or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
I never ever saw somebody walk away when they were like, "Oh, what do you do?" It's like, "Oh, like I'm a video editor and director." I've got a client that is this big brand in paintball, and we document their professional paintball players. No one has ever gone like, "Oh, that's cool, man. It's nice to meet you." And then like wandered off. They're like, "Wait, what?" And they're just asking. Yeah. They're immediately like, "But how does this like the? You mean so like that my son's birthday party?" Like they're immediately engaged in talking to you.
Yes.
Yeah.
To your point, Marcelo, like I can tell my own like, that I got bit by the bug, and I guess on some level I'm still chasing, trying to do this.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the 1999 World Cup. We're watching Avalanche versus Ironman. I'm with Camille Lemansky Baker at the time. She's a Nebraska girl, awesome person. Her Travis as well. Yeah. And we're watching. We're working for Warp Sports at the time, and it's the very famous move that's in Push. Rocky comes over the top, I think on Davey Williamson.
Yeah.
But you're also talking like 10-man, quiet. And again, from story perspective, it's so cool because it's, you're watching and it's building and it's building and it's building. And then he comes out and over and like, you can't scream at the time. But, oh, the collective gasp of everybody watching that. I just remember being like, dude, if you can take what just happened there and put it in the bottle or get a lens on it somehow, if you can take that and make people feel a bit that like, oh, okay, that's what paintball is. Mm-hmm. It's going to be pretty hard for them to be like, yeah, I don't know. That's kind of not really cool. That's boring.
Yeah. Well, dude, those videos were a huge part of why I'm where I'm at today. When I first started paintball, Push, Sunday Drivers, when it came out, and then Serial Killers, that was a progression. Those were the three major films of my upbringing. Push being the very first one that just made me in love with the game, seeing stuff like that, seeing the lifestyle, again, with the Avalanche guys grilling in the backyard, Ed Portman, like that, you just look at it as so something you want to be part of, you want to be a part of that. And as a young kid, they were so influential in my desire to become that, and that's why I'm all about anyone who's putting stuff like this out there, and not enough people I wish more were, but that's why we're so excited about what you're doing with this. We want as many people to watch Best Kids in Texas, because it is that, it is that. It's an amazing story. It truly is.
It's all about the ripples, dude. It's all about the ripples.
I mean, dude, Pat inspired me to be a filmmaker, a
Yeah.
director and a filmmaker in paintball. Like I remember being the furthest peon on that experience. So like I was the music supervisor for Push.
Nice. Whoa.
Which just means I chased down the music that Pat wanted, and because he's a gracious dude, he let us get a Less Than Jake song in there at the end. But I can't say enough. Yeah, man, Pat's just such an inspiration point, and like I remember being at the Push premiere at World Cup 2000 and being like,
whoa.
Man, I want, where it says director Patrick Sporer, like, man, I think I want that to be me one day.
Whoa, that's crazy.
So, man, I hope some kid, I hope some kid sees Best Kids in Texas.
Yeah.
And thinks, and that's what's fun about this stuff too, is they'll totally bring their own thing to it. Right. It'll be, I mean, that might be an inspiration point for them, but like, and that's why I always encourage like young, put your own stamp on what you do, you're obviously going to be a product of your influences and stuff like that, but like, it's okay to kind of do your own thing. Like, dude, it's funny when you talk about music and paintball, like this isn't in a documentary sense, but this is in just an overall sense. I hope people understand too, like Cassidy Sanders and HK, yes. What a groundbreaking, like that's not my vibe or my world, but I was so impressed with like them bringing, electronic and in, because that wasn't done at the time, but that was reflective of what they wanted to do. And I think that's great.
That was the culture. Yeah. That was the next gen, right? It was like that culture. And once again, like that subculture breaching up and coming up through and thriving. Yeah, man, Cassidy, Marcelo and myself have worked so much with Cassidy, and what a great guy he is. And he's got a beautiful little family, and they're just doing so well for themselves.
Yeah. He's killing it in esports.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally crushing it. But something to say about HK too is they continue to crush it, right? Like they have that vision, and Cassidy did move on, but HK still continues to have that presence with that entire genre. And they've really dominated the marketing in paintball, in my opinion. It's not just because we're sponsored by them. Before I got to come over and play with Dynasty, it was something that I always looked at like, man, these are the titans of the marketing, the stuff they did for Dynasty.
Huge shout out to Quitman too, of course. All the things that he's doing
Quitman
these days
is amazing. Absolutely. Well, he's the new guy, ever since Cass left, he's the guy. So when I say HK, I'm referring to David Quitman, which is amazing. I've actually known Quitman since like Die Kids days, which was the very first team that I ever started and played for back when I was 11, 12 years old. Quitman, played in he was part of that local SoCal, Mecca paintball kind of scene. But
he's got all the old footage of everybody in the beginning.
He does. That's great.
And dude, before I went to 2019 World Cup, I was like brainwashed by HK. There was so much, they just crushed everybody on the marketing standpoint of like the new item drop, new product alert, new product alert. You're like, oh my God, these guys are just going off, It's crazy what they do.
I think that's super healthy when you have brands or directors doing stuff again in their vein. That is, it's like, hey, that's not my vibe and my style. My style is this. So we're going to do that over here. And then we do that. And then just as like a fan of that stuff, it's better because you get this kind of like mosaic of experience or this, like, dude, we, in our films, obviously we have action and good.
Oh, hell yeah.
Pretty good shots, but like, we're super story driven.
Yes.
Like that's the perspective that we come from.
Absolutely.
And everybody doesn't have to be like that. And you don't have to do a certain, like, if you asked me to direct or produce an HK style video, it would be awful, and it might be a big challenge for David or
Yeah.
Cassidy to do something
Mm-hmm.
in that vein, in that length.
Yes.
And that's okay. It's good that there's all these different types of stuff.
Ooh,
That's what we always preach that. We're like, more paintball, dude. We need everybody because everyone is so valuable, and it's all about the perspectives, right? And that's the beautiful thing about this life experience is everyone holds their own very real perspective on everything. And each vein, like you said, has tremendous value and provides so much context, like a mosaic, like a really, it's important, we need all of it. We need more paintball. That's the motto for sure.
Yeah, I mean, the more diversity we can have in our branding and stuff like that, the more people we can appeal to, and that's better for paintball. Period.
Mm-hmm.
So
you don't know what's going to click with people, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Totally.
And just as obviously, and it totally would be reflective as long as it's genuine and the mix of everybody you're working with, the director, the athletes.
Yeah.
Again, you don't know. People are going to respond to things differently, or they're maybe going to come for one thing.
Mm-hmm.
But stay for something else. Like, a different thing might bring them, like, dude, that's incredible that like off of your podcast, somebody started playing that had never picked up a gun before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, maybe they're going to find something else like Best Kids in Texas that keeps them engaged,
Totally. Yep. It's all about those ripples. Like you said, man, we don't understand what these ripples can do. And it's a life-changing game. We all know that. Paintball, from behind the camera, from behind the mask, no matter where you're sitting, it's a life-changing game. It's life-changing experience. Being able to be a part of the tribe, it's a paintball tribe and we're all in it, having fun, shooting these paintball pellets at each other and just enjoying life,
Indeed.
Absolutely,
Paintball
man.
pellets.
It's like my dad used to they used to shoot each other up with real pellets, and now we just got these paint ones, so it's a little bit friendlier.
So Dan, let's I kind of want to dive back into the Best Kids in Texas story, man, and stuff we're doing about that, but let's give like a little background because you've been part of so many really elite documentaries in paintball. Let's kind of talk about from the very first one. I think, was it Artifacts? That was the second one, I think. One of the first ones you did was maybe even before that. But let's kind of go through the storyline of your involvement in these paintball videos, these paintball documentaries. I know you've worked with Impact, Dynasty, X Factor, like some of the best teams in the league. So let's go through that a little bit.
So like I said, the first thing I ever like touched around was Push, in, like I said, way in the peripheral as the music supervisor, because a lot of industry stuff was coming together to support Brian and Brian Benini and Patrick Sporer on making that film. Again, another Ed is like, oh, hey, I got a music guy that you should talk to, because that was really my background. And then quickly, myself, Pat, and Brian had a lot in common musically. And that's how I learned. But the combination of that in school is how I learned how to license music and all that process. Okay. Mm-hmm. Warp Sports started doing its own content very much in a Volcom kind of way. Mm-hmm. So there was that Avalanche 101 that I referenced earlier, which was like a Tony Hawk tip video that I was the producer on. I always say I've done the like most ridiculous trajectory. I went from the writing room. I went from the producers, which is up here, all the way down into the trenches for writer, editor, and then coming all the way back up again.
Damn.
Brad Mon directed and edited that.
Brad Mon directed and edited what?
Avalanche 101.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. And then off of that, we started something for Warp Sports called Jawbreaker Video Series, which was inspired by like Vans 411 video magazine. Because again, this is kind of pre-internet's happening, but like no high speed. You can't watch a video on the internet,
It makes the funny sounds when you dial up.
Yeah, right. So we did that. That transitioned. It was a Warp Sports project. It transitioned into my own. I had my own production company. And that's where Planet Eclipse comes in, who, again, I can't say enough about as a brand that really got using video and using their sponsored athletes to connect with players and the public. Leds and Julian Carr are big snowboard guys. So I don't know if that, helped inform, but they were always very supportive of Jawbreaker. And then we transitioned over, and now you're starting to talk about 2004, 5, 6, where you're starting to see brands produce their own video content and changing it to be like some promotional stuff. Like skate companies are starting to stuff DVDs with their shoes at Osiris, or their Volcom or Billabong is hang tagging stuff. And that's where we start coming into the artifact films. We did the first doc that we did was a little short called Death or Glory. As we started doing these Eclipse year-end skate style DVDs, it was as Excessive was falling apart.
Yeah.
They were on that trajectory. It was 06. It looked like that was, they were finally going to stop Dynasty from a series win. And then all their drama happened where they lost a lot of their players and they still had a handful of guys. You go into 2006 MPPL OC, which ends up Excessive is out. It's Joy and Dynasty in the finals. If Joy wins, Excessive wins the circuit. If Dynasty wins, it's,
that was
business
crazy.
as usual.
Business as usual, series number 12 in a row. What was super fascinating about that, and this just happened by accident, we had a camera go down. So Brad and Sammy Anzari, who's worked with us a bunch, they're filming on the field, and I'm dicking with the camera, and I get it back up. So I just turn it on Nikki Cuba, who's a friend of mine for a long time, and we watched Nikki watch that match and watch his, and I think Eclipse just posted this on one of their channels. It's terrible. The editing's terrible. I'm so bad at that point. And it's like 3x2, but there's a famous thing where it's just Nikki's just like stone faced, like, yeah, okay, we lost. That's it. We're done.
Yeah.
That's super controversial. So that's the first little thing that we had done. Then we started doing the Artifact film series, which was kind of inspired.
Because real quick, that was a very controversial game. One of the most controversial games in the history.
Oh, yeah, dude.
So, Joy Division goes down. They kind of should have won the game, but they get a bunch of penalties because they were trying to cheat, and BC was like the last one alive. I don't know, honestly. I was in the VIP watching that match, and I don't remember exactly what happened, but that was so controversial. And so I can't imagine with the Excessive guys like, no, they should have won, Like,
yeah. Oh, dude. Yeah, that was like, oh man, it was super crazy. It was super controversial.
But did your camera go down on the field?
No, it went down before the match started. So we only had one camera on the field. So we were not on the side where all the craziness went
so
down.
It makes sense. So you weren't able to show that Dynasty actually should have lost. Who was paying you?
I think it would.
No, I'm totally kidding.
I know. Dude. I think we tried to get the footage from Dirter, and Rob was like, "Kick rocks, kick rocks." This is ours, man.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Dude, shout out to Rob too, Dirter Rob, man. What a legend as well. We absolutely have to get him on the show eventually if we can. I know he's off doing. I think he found a lot of success in weddings and things like that. But
he's a really successful motion graphic artist.
Amazing, cool.
We does a ton of motion graphic work. We've used him on occasion at the the production company when we needed him to do stuff. But like, freaking hilarious guy.
Yeah.
Sharp, really dry sense of humor, which I love. Dirter had a great vibe. Again, another one of their own kind of.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. It was like their own thing. You're right.
It was like a rock show paintball style,
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
They were awesome.
I gotta say, Dan, that's why I've always liked your stuff. It connects a little more with me than any of the other types of film that's out there. I truly love this story. That's what grabs me in anything.
Wow,
and I'm not just saying it because you're on the show. I promise. Like it's very genuine. I love even the music, and I like all types of music, but for some reason I feel like the style of music that you choose for paintball videos fits for paintball videos. Maybe it's because, again, Push was like one of the first ones, and just that Jets to Brazil is one of my favorite songs ever. I think was that Push or Sunday Driver? I'm pretty sure it was Push.
That was
Push.
That was Push. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was Paul Pat, who is the singer for Jets to Brazil, is the singer for Jawbreaker.
There we go,
dude, crazy. So what's funny is I still, to this day, I still listen to that song before games. Not every time, it depends on my mood, but I still have that song in a playlist, and so your style has always just kind of connected with me, and that's what we talk about is connecting with different types of players and what kind of moves them a little bit. But I just love what you do. So I'm sorry, we're going to jump back in though to this lineage of videos, and along the way as well. Can you also tell viewers if there's a place that they can still watch them?
Yeah. So Planet Eclipse is they're starting to put out all of the retro of kind of the old stuff, like the newer things that are after maybe 2014 are, I believe, on PB Nation's YouTube channel. Eclipse and PB Nation started doing, just because, that became kind of the place where everybody was finding stuff.
Yeah.
So he started putting the film. So like 15 is up on, PB Nation's YouTube channel.
Nice. Yeah. Everybody go check that out. It's an amazing documentary about Dynasty that he created.
It's crazy. Like, you couldn't write it any better. And the streak ended the next year.
I know.
No, dude. I know. You cursed us in a way.
Yeah.
It's all my fault.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Tell Yoshi and Alex and everybody I'm sorry.
15. It's all you get. Just 15.
Yep. Which is, damn, that's a run, huh? That's crazy.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, man. Yeah. So impressive what you guys have done, man.
Yeah, it's an honor to be a part of this organization and be a part of that bloodline, and to have helped, create some of those wins out there for the team, for the lineage. It's just a beautiful story.
Yeah, it was really cool making that. And again, like, so much faith and like credit to Eclipse in sticking around, because that's the thing with documentaries, you don't know what's going to happen. And so you have to keep going in the way of like, we're shooting those events and you're like not sure what's going to happen. And then once you guys didn't win in Virginia, it got easy in that I was like, okay, well, guess what? Let's like, we have an ending.
Yeah. Either
the streak keeps alive or it doesn't.
Damn.
So can we get budget for World Cup? He's like, yes, you can get budget for World Cup.
Hell yeah. And good thing you did. That was a big one.
Yeah, man. So we started, then the first Artifact film was also with Excessive, was called Rivalry, and was covering Excessive and Vicious in whatever that PSP, I can't remember if it was called Semi-Pro at the time or if it was called Div 1. This is like 2010.
I think it might have been Division 1, but I can't remember.
I don't remember either. They change pretty much as I change underwear. So
just the division below you guys. But they were both Eclipse teams, and they were trading wins all season back and forth. And weirdly, by about that time, probably because things were going digital and going to streaming away from DVDs and stuff like that. Like, film companies were just falling apart. Not falling apart. We're falling by the wayside.
Yeah.
So I really thought about that when we did Artifact, and the idea, and I think Maddie, Marshall, and I had talked about having something that was sort of like our own 30 for 30. Paintball's own 30 for 30. So Artifact's a collection of all these different films that might be about different teams and might have some different, perspectives. So Rivalry was the first one. We did a handful of shorts. And then the other one that is on PB Nation's YouTube channel as well, that comes up a lot as people's favorite, was called One Night in November. Which features Aftershock, and like Ronnie T's on Shock at the time, Nick Slowiak, I think McCurley was maybe still there, and so the season before that was really prosperous. It really looked like Shock was going to be on the up again. And then in 2010, it just, or whatever year that was, they had a really rough year, 2011, I think it was.
Yeah.
And then they somehow managed to beat Dynasty in the finals of Las Vegas, which was held in November at that time. So it's kind of like, all right, it's like for one night, it kind of came together. And then in the off season, the team totally exploded. I think Heat formed in the off season. And then that's when Ronnie and Nick went there as well too. And so that, because I think some of the stuff that you mentioned earlier, Marcelo, where the way that Shock had to bootstrap themselves so much, I think a lot of it resonated with a lot of people. That's just kind of my guess.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Yeah, it's a bummer that lineage isn't around anymore.
It is.
I know. Well, it is in a way. The players are still around, but the Aftershock name, the historical
that organization.
Name.
Yeah, that organization's legendary. It's like if Iron Man or Dynasty or Russian Legion were not around anymore. And, sorry if I'm like, Impact has become very prominent, but honestly, they're very new. They've been pro for, well, goodness, time's flying on. It's actually been 13 years, 14 years, but they feel like a new pro team. They truly do. You were talking about these other teams that are celebrating 25th anniversaries, stuff like that. These are some of the original professional organizations. Aftershock was one of the best, and that organization meant something. Like if you got picked up on that team, you had to have a certain attitude. It wasn't just about your play style. It was everything. It was an all encompassing mindset. And so when you played Aftershock, you knew what you were getting yourself into. You knew it was going to be a gritty match, no matter what. It was going to be gritty. And so it was never going to be easy, no matter how bad they may have been playing at the time. It still wasn't going to be easy. It was going to be something. There's going to be some kind of something going on that's going to make you walk away from it saying, shit, that was a fight, and
so iconic for the Midwest. Like we were talking about earlier with paintball teams and bands, like Shock was that if for a lot of people in Illinois, Michigan, Nebraska, even those, Shock was that.
Yeah, as the hub.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I got a question for you, Dan. What do you feel about, when the NXL expanded from 16 to 20 pro teams? There's a lot of people that complain and say, oh, these teams don't deserve to be pro. You're watering it down. This is baloney, blah, 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 blah. How do you feel about the expansion of pro teams? Do you think more pro teams are good, less pro team? I guess you can even compare it back to like the champs and challengers, but just the idea of adding more pro teams, even though they might not be ready.
So I'm obviously going to give you my answer purely from my perspective of filmmaking and storytelling. Mm-hmm. Doesn't mean it's the end all be all. Doesn't mean,
Of course. Yeah.
And it's only part of that broad view of stuff. I think off of the last thing that you said, I don't know how you guys feel about it. I know, and I wasn't sold it at first. I think Champs and Challengers was one of the best things of the last 10 years.
Yeah.
I understand why pros, a lot of pros hated it, mm-hmm. but what they hated about it is what made it.
Yes.
You're in jeopardy all the time.
Yeah.
There is, like, I remember, dude, I had to eat my words, i.e. probably buy somebody a bottle of something because I literally was like, this is cool. I mean, Dynasty will never get relegated, and I was like, holy, but again, I know it sucked for you guys, but for the sport and for the game, it was okay. So look, we're starting to graft over into entertainment. Okay. And sports is entertainment. And when you get into entertainment and any of that kind of stuff, the concept of like anything can happen is really powerful for viewing audiences. So I don't know if I have so I love Champs and Challengers in that structure. As far as it expanding to 20 teams, I'm not knowledgeable enough anymore on all of the team depth, but what I will say in general is because it's a decentralized professional sport, meaning it works more like action sports where everybody's their own captain. You don't have a league like the NFL or the NBA with salary caps and lottery picks and these kinds of things that try to balance the forces. Mm-hmm. if you have a situation where, and I'm not saying I know that this is the case, but if you have a situation where teams 14 through 20 have no real chance of being competitive,
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the best, at least for viewership and from a storytelling standpoint. I mean, especially, and this sounds kind of cold-hearted, but especially when you're concerned about taking care of the athletes, and you should be. If it was old school and it was like, hey, there's 14 through 20 can't win, but we're going to play two halves, no points. And if you're the Russians and you want to beat somebody to death 19-2, because you get some just incredible, I mean, the Russians,
Yeah.
there were just muggings in those
man.
years of NXL
Oh,
stuff.
yeah. Like, I remember Ultimate took like a 24-1 beating.
Yeah, I mean, the Russians, it was brutal. I couldn't imagine
being on the other end of that.
yeah. But does that reasonable? Like,
Yeah,
does that make sense where I'm coming from?
Totally. That's an interesting take. And obviously you are the storytelling expert. So getting that side of it is fascinating to me, because the side that I always argue for, without really taking that perspective into it, is that I think whether they have a chance of winning the tournament or not, all of these teams have a chance of beating teams. And that's been proven over year after year. There's it happened to Dynasty in 2017, and no shade to Boom, but we were the only game they won in Vegas. They beat us in the prelims, and then we won the tournament, but they still beat us in the prelims. They beat a top level team. And it happens, we used to say, like, one team is going to get boomed this event, like a team, it's going to happen. And that's kind of exciting. But to me, sorry, go ahead. Do you want to say something real quick?
I was just going to say was my caveat was to come. So, like, I'm a huge NFL fan. And so it's just to say, so it's maybe a little closer to your perspective, is that, like, look, not every team really has a chance to make the Super Bowl, or the NBA, but most of the teams have a chance. If you have a chance to make the playoffs, if they have a chance to make Sunday, then the prelims truly are competitive, or the structure, because anything can happen, even though once it gets all the way to the top.
Yeah.
I was just saying, if those teams, and again, I don't know if they do, if they really have no chance of, like, yeah, they might upset you guys and ruin your day, but if they don't really have a chance to at least make it to the next round, then I'm not sure.
Right.
Totally.
And so my argument to it, or not my argument, but my the reason that I have been in support of the expansion is because I understand for me, the most important thing was being able to go to my local field and seeing professional teams there. Right. So when I was a kid, when I was like 12, 13 years old, I'd go to the field and I saw Iron Man. I would see some Dynasty players. That along with, the other stuff, that's really what allowed me to follow that path of becoming a pro. So to me, if a team can open up shop in Ohio, like Level Up, for example, now all of these teams at that local field, all of these players, the divisional players, they now might be a little more inspired to train harder, work harder, so they can be on that pro team. They don't have to move across the country. They don't have to abandon their jobs, their families. So it might inspire more growth within that community of wherever that organization's from. And I think in the long term, that could be really important too. But, like, I see your side of from the storytelling, I've never heard that argument.
Yeah. But that makes sense, Marcel. And dude, Matt and I have had this conversation years ago. Maddie, dude, a lot of people forget this. Maddie has said to me before that he thought one of the worst things that happened for the development of players was pro-only leagues. And so for those of you out there, like, who are younger, dude, MPPL probably 2002 or 1, you might not know this, pros played amateurs.
Yeah.
And as a fan from sports, I thought that was insane. That didn't make any sense to me. I just didn't understand. But Matt would always say, he would be like, yeah, dude, but that game that you get stomped down, you learn more in that game.
Yeah.
Than you do as beating these other, if it was like amateur B, I think it was amateur A, amateur B, and you'd have these heats where it would be like 2 killer pro teams, 2 medium pro teams, like two good AM teams, two maybe not so good AM teams, and however they would kind of mix up. And like, I understand that in just, as a former athlete, and even in, like I'm really competitive in our filmmaking and competitive with myself. And if you don't try more challenging things, it's very difficult to get better.
For sure.
Yeah.
So I definitely understand that perspective, and it has a lot of value.
Yeah.
Just,
well,
I was just
that's
talking with someone about that too, about we gotta that should be a thing. The pros should be able to have a game against the lower tier. That way they can get a look at it,
I mean, that's a major reason that European paintball grew to the place that it is. It's a major reason that Australian paintball grew to the point that it is the better players going over there and challenging them and forcing them to get better. And instead of practicing once a month, now, okay, shit, if these American teams are going to come over and dominate, if we want to win, we're going to have to practice 3 or 4 times a month, at least. And you raise the bar. And now it's extremely competitive. There's European teams that are absolutely dominant. There's Australian teams that, 6-7 years ago, one American player could go over and play with any pro team in Australia and probably win. If they were a good US pro, they could carry the team. Now there's no way. All of the teams, there's like 4 or 5 Australian pro teams that are legitimate teams, and the entire culture of Australian paintball has gotten better. The entire culture of European paintball has gotten better because of those challenges. And so that is a little different than what I'm saying. Again, to me, it just comes down to like, you create superheroes, right? So if I'm a little kid in Ohio and I'm like, this guy's pro, he's on Go Sports. Oh my God, he's in these paintball films. I want to be that. Even though they might not be winning all the time, at least it's a path to professional paintball, which might keep them in the game longer.
Well, but dude, you also, that's one of the really unique things, like paintball is so unique. It's so cool, but it also creates so many challenges for itself. I think what you're talking about has a lot more to do. I've always had is it action sport? Is it traditional team sport? Where does that mix in? Because what you're talking about is stuff. It's like, dude, if you we're talking about here, if you consistently are surfing or skating or like snow, you're going out with people who are better than you, like you pick up on this stuff like that, and that's a different vibe than, how do we make the NFL more competitive on TV? How do we make people? Well, you do that by making all 16 games count. You do that by having parity. You do that by having more teams be able to get in the playoffs. You do that by making it more, like there's a lot of people. I was just reading a piece the other day. The Dodgers are complaining because as dominant as they are, they really don't. It doesn't pay off for them. They draw the 8 seed, but they can get knocked out in 3 games.
Yeah.
Oakland's in a similar spot. So I get those are just really different arguments, and paintball has parts of both.
It's like the NBA actually started to dabble a little bit this year with the play-in playoffs, right? And that was actually incredibly exciting. It was like, whoa, it's not just the top 8 seeds. Actually, the 8th seed has to play the 9th seed to see who gets that 8th seed. And that was actually my favorite out of all the playoffs, and I'm a huge NBA fan. That's my favorite sport to watch. That was my most exciting series to watch, was that the seeding game. It was really gritty, and it's the teams that you don't expect, and it's like, wait, something's about to get ripped away from one of the teams that traditionally kind of deserves it, and like it was really fun to watch.
It's huge, man. Like not just because it's my original hometown, but like, and first of all, I know we were talking off there. I think by and large, the NBA has done the best job in the pandemic.
Yeah, they're doing amazing.
But there's only one game so far, previous to the semifinals, that I watched the whole game, and it was the last Nuggets and Clippers game. Like I grew up in Denver, but in that I was like, they're not really going to beat the Clippers, are they? Like, oh my God, they're still alive, and tuning into that game, in having, again, some of those elements of the 8-9 seed thing that you're talking about. Like, those having stakes is what's important from a storytelling standpoint. I'm not enough of, how you get there. You can slice it up a bunch of different ways, but I think that's ultimately what's important.
Yeah. It's funny because I'm kind of going from the viewpoint of a participation standpoint, and you're going from a viewership standpoint, right? And you're right. Both are so important. So how do you make that work, right? Here's something that I've actually always said, ever since Split Deck. we could have 20 pro teams. We could have 30 pro teams. Honestly, we have 30 pro teams. So it's building participation in these areas. That's fantastic. But your team only gets a certain amount of time on the webcast, and it should be based on your viewership and where you're ranked, you know? So you come to an event, you get rid of split deck first and foremost. Split deck is so difficult. I understand the logistics and why the league feels they need to do it, but for a story standpoint, it's awful. It's really difficult for viewers to stay engaged, you know? And so, yeah, maybe you have 4 prelim games, but if you're a bottom 5 team, you only have one game that's on the pro field, you know, and you do manipulate the schedule. Like the NFL, the NBA, they're all concerned about the schedule. They make sure that they match up the schedule so that it's going to make them money. You think this Monday night game that's going on right now as we're recording this, the Ravens versus the Kansas City Chiefs, Monday Night Football, you think that wasn't planned for viewership? Like they don't do a random draw.
And the NFL, I think it's maybe 5 years now, maybe it's newer than that. They have, as part of NBC's Sunday Night Football in America, they have the flex deal where it has to be like 2 weeks notice or something like that or whatever, but they can pull a game up that was a normal. So like, oh, hey, Minnesota and Green Bay are normally supposed to play at, you know, Sunday at 2, but the winner's going to get the wild card, the loser's out, give us that game.
Wow.
And they move it up to the, I mean, dude, I was going to have like, I'm sure you guys would remember, but like, make sure I get the year right. Who was the 2 teams and in the World Cup final of the Champions Division in 2014?
Russian Legion and Damage. Or Art Chaos and Damage, sorry.
Very good. I was going to say Art. What I was going to say is Art Chaos and Damage, and nobody cared. You know what they cared about was, and that's no disrespect to those teams.
No,
but what they cared about was the bananas, most epic, one of the probably greatest 5 World Cup matches ever, which was you guys Dynasty against Infamous in the Challengers Division. The one-on-ones. I mean, that was epic, dude. That as a broadcaster, if you want to start talking about broadcasting, like you want those. Those are the games that like you want to show. So that was it was an interesting thing where you guys were technically in the 2nd division, but that match was what people still talk about.
Dude, that was crazy. That was insane playing all those one-on-ones, and that was just a wild game. The crowd was going nuts out there. It was crazy.
Yeah, I remember watching. I wasn't on Dynasty at that point. I was still on the Ironman, but I remember watching. I think we got 3rd place that event, so we lost the Damage. Yeah, we lost the Damage that World Cup. They went on and got it just beat down by Art Chaos 7-0. And you're right, nobody cared about that game. It was the Dynasty Infamous game, which was a rivalry all year in the Champions Division, right? But now they were in the Challengers Division playing at the World Cup. It was like that was the World Cup finals, you know?
Yeah, and it's a historical rivalry. I mean, the first team to really stop Dynasty was when Infamous revolted from the NXL and came into NPPL Tampa. I mean, which was one of the best moments.
Iconic. Raymond James Stadium, Chris Asoya, you know, was it his
Rusty
nephew?
Spray painted Infamous. I mean, dude, that's like, again, you as a storyteller, like those are really compelling things.
Yeah, how rad is the Glaze family? They're just the best, dude. Gator and Rusty.
Oh, yeah, dude.
Epic. Yeah, what they were
just great people.
Yeah, and then like you were saying, the stencils, they just had so much swag and style, man. They were there to get it. It was great to watch. Yeah,
man. So that was a historical rivalry. So yeah, there always happens. Oh, that's what I was saying. You're talking about the there's participation and viewership, right. And they're both really important. Probably, I get it, to the industry participations. There's probably more emphasis on this fader, if you will.
But viewership leads to participation as well. So, that's, you can't discount that.
Well, and there's a really cool documentary out right now that I encourage people to check out called Pretending I'm Superman.
Okay.
Nice.
And it's about the Tony Hawk Pro Skater. It's about the Tony Hawk Pro Skater game.
Okay.
And it really dives into, and I didn't even realize this, it said even more so than X Games, that exploded skateboarders and skate culture. And what ended up happening is, so, and again, there's always resistance to this. Purists would say, of course, that's what, they're false or whatever, but you would have this situation where like this many people skated, but this many people thought skateboarding was super cool because they played the Tony Hawk game.
I was one of those.
And so
I was one of those.
Yeah. And so what that starts to mean in a very practical way is Volcom and Element and skate brands and skateboarders, like they can start to sell their stuff to people that don't necessarily like play. Like they're not buying decks, obviously.
Yeah.
But they're buying obviously shoes. They're buying apparel. And I'm not necessarily saying 100% that they're like, oh, the paintball should just copy that, yada, yada. But I'm just mentioning that that's an interesting thing out there to take an observation on.
For sure. People still talk about Greg Hastings paintball all the time. We need more of that stuff out there as well.
Is that done? Is Greg doing games anymore? I haven't been.
Dude,
I heard on the back burner that there might be something, but I don't know.
I don't know. It's really strange because I feel like they're done. And then I feel like I've been seeing that a new game's been released for like 4 years. And I don't want to throw any shade towards Greg because what he's done is amazing. So I'm probably not educated enough to speak on it. But I keep feeling like there's a new game coming out, but I just haven't seen it.
I'm not a gamer,
yeah.
So I'm not dialed into that either. And yeah, he's done some really cool stuff.
Totally.
But it just was interesting to see the impact that game had on the overall skate industry. And to your point, Marcelo, how off its strength, things like the Street League, which is on NBC now, or like have grown out of that. So some participation things have.
Wow.
So yeah, man.
Well, dude, again, viewership is important. Again, you get people that are interested in what you do, then you have a market. Period. It's not really that difficult to understand, and I feel like we make it way more complicated than it is. But this is why we're so appreciative of people like you and Maddie. Maddie is like, I've been really fortunate. Maddie has been a really great mentor to me for, a long time, honestly, 15, 17 years, pretty much my whole professional career. And so I've had a lot of amazing talks with him, and he has taught me a lot about the importance of all the stuff that I'm sure you've had the same conversations with Maddie about, hours on end with coffee and Jameson, or whatever it might be.
Absolutely.
But it's so important for us to make sure that people are interested in what we do. Like that is it. If we can't do that, then professional paintball will not ever be anything, no matter how many people participate. I guess there was a really good argument that Dave Chaney had to that as well, that paintball is a participation sport. And if you don't have a lot of viewers, but you have an exponential amount of participants, you can create success that way as well. And that was a really interesting conversation. Sure. But look, I agree. It's both. We need to do both. We need to nurture the participation side. We need to nurture the viewership. Yep. We need to make people excited and interested in what we do.
We need all of that.
We need all of it, dude. We do for sure.
Hopefully you get more things. And again, maybe Best Kids in Texas can be this.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Is I still see, again, I'm pretty removed at this point, so you have to take this with a grain of salt, but I still see a bit of a gap in people who saw an ad on TV, they got served an ad on Facebook, they go play at their local field, father and son, they go play whatever, they go pick up, or they go have a bachelorette party, stag party, I think is what that's called over the UK, or, birthday party, whatever. And they, that's just it for them. There's not connective tissue that is like, hey, there's a competitive, if you like sports and competition, there's this whole world. And then like if you get into, I think in general, Go Sports, an OTT network for something you're a fan of, that's amazing. That's so cool that if that's your thing, from, you have Fight TV, UFC Fight Pass, WWE Network, all those things that you can drill into. That's awesome. I feel like maybe that missing piece of, if it's media or whatever, is like that's where you circle up on the chart where you're like, hey, maybe we're a little light right here.
Totally.
Totally.
Oh, dude. Again, this is the exact conversation we had with Dave Cheney. I don't know if you know who Dave Cheney is by chance. He's the one who brought Under Armour into paintball back in like
Yep.
2015. Really
I know who he
experienced.
is. I've never met him. I've always
Okay.
heard awesome
Yeah.
things. Like we chatted on Instagram a couple times. I don't think we've met
Yeah.
face to face before.
Dude's
Yeah.
amazing, very experienced in sports marketing, works for New Balance now, but he was bringing up that exact point, and it's something that's so important.
Oh,
Tyler and I really do want to start to facilitate is all of these fields should, you're so right. There's these players, they go out for a birthday party, bachelor party, or with their buddies, work party, whatever it is, they play, and that's it. Maybe they play once a year. They don't even understand that professional paintball exists. They go to a paintball field, and they are not exposed to professional paintball. So his idea and something that Tyler and I have talked about and we've all tossed back and forth is like these fields need to do a better job of having professional posters, and whether it's like autographed, stuff or magazines, we go back to magazines, like all of this stuff needs to be at the storefront. So when these players come, they see it, they're like, oh, what is that poster? That's crazy. That looks like really action packed. Oh, that's Tyler Harmon, professional player for San Diego Dynasty. It's some big, elaborate, professional looking poster. Could make a lot of difference, and
It's a game changer, 100%.
Have Go Sports playing. You have a screen where there's professional games that are playing.
Yeah.
Like
to illustrate your point, like this is how. Let me tell you how Best Kids in Texas got picked up.
Nice.
So
okay, we need to talk about that too. Like everything that I know we keep saying we're going to talk about it, but yeah, there's a lot of like Best Kids in Texas got picked up by what? We're gonna have to get into that. Okay,
Yeah.
we'll get to that after this.
Okay, so we that's we have we kind of, I think we mentioned them earlier on. We're distributed by Gravitas Ventures. That's what that when you can't just call Netflix and be like, hey bro, I got a film. Like it doesn't work like that. You have to go through a distributor. They're always scouting for films. It's not like it used to be in the early 90s, but film festivals are still kind of a way to do it. A lot of them have submission forms and whatnot, or there's no one secret formula, just in the same way on like how you get a show on television. There's a handful of things that happen, but you just don't know. So we're working film festivals for 50 Summers and for Best Kids in Texas. We submitted it, and 50 Summers did really well. Best Kids got into a couple. We got screened at a festival in Austin, and we got a follow-up from a distributor that I remember they missed the screening or they didn't make it there, but they had seen we had gotten an award for 50 Summers or the other one. So we just, reached back out to see how we were doing on our films and if we had, distribution, what our plans were, whatever. So we sent him the trailer for Best Kids in Texas and then a screener. And his reaction was this, holy cow, that's so cool. I had no idea that world existed.
Wow.
I mean, I knew paintball existed. And said something to the effect of like, my kid's like 14 and we just went a couple of weeks ago and played somewhere in California, but I didn't know this was a thing.
And Dan, I think that's all too common. I think that there's a huge gap, like you're talking about. There's a huge disconnect of attaining these players from going and playing paintball. Yeah.
So, I mean, with hopefully with Best Kids, we do good in iTunes and Amazon Prime. The next phase would be where 50 Summers is now, the streaming side of Amazon Prime. So if you're a Prime member, you get access to it.
Awesome.
And then down the line, the next thing from that would be a Netflix pickup. Like that's how the distribution kind of walks you through. There's no guarantee. There's also no 100% formula. It's not like if you sell 11,000 rentals and 26.7, it's just this weird kind of a measurement of buzz. A lot also has to do with just with the pandemic. There's not a lot of content out there right now.
That's right.
So that might open up some doors.
Go
ahead.
As a paintball community, although there might not be much of algorithm, or there is an algorithm, but we don't quite know what it is. I guarantee you, viewership is part of it. Has to be, right?
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. It's it's part of the
How
formula for
how
sure.
much will this cost to download?
I think it rents. We're not in control of
Okay.
that. I will say
Oh,
that,
yeah,
Chase. I think it rents for $4 and it sells for 12.
dude, that's so incredibly cheap. Look, PTG listeners, please, let's download this. One, it's an excellent documentary. It's amazing. Let's show
It's
support for it.
phenomenal.
Let's share
Yeah.
it. And as a matter of fact, Ty, let's put together some kind of giveaway for our PTG listeners that do download this film and watch it. And we'll figure out what that is. Not exactly sure what, but we got to show tons of support for this because we don't have many opportunities to be in every single human's home that has Netflix and Amazon Prime. Like this is a unique opportunity. And so any way we could support, one, you're going to get a sweet documentary for $4. That's amazing. I would just buy it so you can watch it over and over. But
I'd buy it 2 times. That's how many times I'd buy it.
This is where the paintball community can kind of show out, like I say this over and over. We always want to bring in outside eyes, but then we don't even pay for Go Sports. I have 2 Go Sports accounts. I have one that I watch personally when I'm at events. I don't want it to be interrupted. And I have another one that I give out to my friends and family, like I'm willing.
And those dudes work super hard, man. Matt and
totally.
Cena and Darren and everybody. Yeah. I mean, like it is cool. Like tomorrow morning, like by the time you're listening to this, if you go to iTunes and the movie section and you type in Best Kids in Texas and you go to Amazon Prime and you type in Best Kids in Texas, a paintball movie will load up for you to look at.
Amazing.
And that's kind
Has
of
that
cool.
ever been done before?
Also,
never. Right?
To my knowledge, it has not. It's never been on a documentary on the pro circuit or a pro team has never been. I don't mean an iTunes format that you could play in iTunes, but I mean actually sold and distributed
in the store,
through.
right?
Yeah,
beautiful.
I think there's a documentary on, and I can't remember if it's Amazon or iTunes. There's a documentary on West Point, the military academy, and their paintball team.
Oh wow!
And then I think in Amazon Prime, there is a single episode of something that was done with the London Tigers. It maybe looked like it was going to be a series, but it didn't really, I don't know if it went full on or if it's even still in there.
Wow.
Back in the day, you could obviously buy dirters and jawbreakers and stuff where the DVDs would sell in the store. But now we're talking about their entertainment platforms.
Yeah, exactly.
No,
right.
I feel like we are, the first. The other thing that people can do too is there are social media channels for the film, all channels, Best Kids in Texas Film. You'll find it. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Just engage with that stuff. Share it. It is another chance to show moms, dads, aunts, uncles, friends, girlfriends, coworkers, like a bit into this world of what crazy, the crazy world that everybody lives in. That is part of the algorithm too.
Totally.
iTunes is really important in that, like, and we saw this with 50 Summers, which was super cool and super flattering. I know Bill Hipsher, our producer, and I, and all of the team at Heard Out was pretty stoked. It only stayed there for I think like a day, but 50 Summers was in the top documentaries.
Yeah.
Just based on the traffic it was getting for like a day.
Nice.
We got to do that. I want that to happen. I want it to happen.
That'd be cool, dude. That'd be super into it.
Yeah.
Well, then we can make it happen.
Yes,
we just gotta, like all of the listeners out there, go to the Best Kids in Texas Instagram, go to the Facebook, support on there, go to iTunes, throw the $4 in the bucket, man. It's a couple quarters, man. Get out there and support paintball.
It's Best Kids in Texas _film. That's the Instagram. Everybody go shoot them a follow and
we also have a website.
Oh yeah.
We also have a .com, like bestkidsinTexas.com for the film. That's got your standard film setup. It's got bios. It's got some stuff on there.
Amazing.
Actually, I think I probably should be a better salesperson at this, but I think we're running something too out of the gate. If you rent or purchase it in the first week, through this will be administered through the Best Kids in Texas website, but we're going to give you access to a bunch of old school raw games.
Oh, that's really cool.
And I think the way that it works is you go to the Best Kids in Texas website and you put in your like receipt number from iTunes,
Yeah.
and then you'll get an email with like a password, and then we'll add some of these. Like, you can see how bad our camera work was back in the day, especially when it was raw. But some of these like I know one of them because Ryan Brand was in it, is X Factor Aftermath from HB,
Yeah.
from like HBO 7 maybe.
Okay.
7 man, 2 man, it'll get back there and you'll be like, oh yeah, I see why they did like highlight reels, because you can't watch like a full game. It's like, it's terrible, I can't see anybody.
Yeah.
But yeah, checking out some of that old stuff. But
For sure.
Yeah, man, I hope like I said this in like a promo video I did the other day, but truly, like, I really hope we open the floodgates.
Yeah.
I don't want to be I don't want it to be like, oh, hey, do you know what I don't want to be a trivia question that's like, you know what the only paintball documentary was?
Yeah.
I wanted to open the doorways so all kinds of other, like, it is like,
For sure.
people who are telling paintball stories or want to come tell paintball stories, it's worth, they have the opportunity. It's seen as something that's like valid, because I have nothing but respect and admiration for what all tournament players and pro players do. Like, the dedication that you guys have to the sport that you love is, pretty incredible. So
yeah, and it's an amazing game, dude. It's fun as anything you'll ever play. It's and it's not the easiest game. It's a lot of mentality and chess moves. It's not a traditional sport, but it's very, very fast paced and fun. And who knows, maybe this could be the kickstart that gets us some more paintball stuff going on. I think more people are seeing paintball than ever. So this could couple that with, all the stuff that we have going on the web, through all these different sites. We can start to boost this and get it going for you.
Yeah, it all has its place, man. I would say in my 20 years in paintball and in paintball media, I would say the one mistake that I saw repeated, and it seems like it's moving away from that, which is awesome, is there was an idea of a silver bullet. We just got to get it on TV. We just got to get it ESPN back in the day when
that's right.
Like all these one silver bullet-y things, and it's not. I don't think it is this mosaic and all of these. You need a good OTT like Go Sports. You need maybe like a film like this. You need kids doing raws. You need Ronnie doing the stuff that he's doing.
Yeah.
Like, it's all of that stuff.
Yes.
It's not just the one. It's not just the one answer,
For sure. Because honestly, I truly believe that more people know about paintball today than they ever have. I think that people are highly interested by paintball, whether you believe it or not. Like, you're rubbing shoulders with a paintball player that you don't even know, but we're all playing this game and we don't even realize how close it is to, being on the cusp of the other side of the glass that we haven't seen yet, of it really being known. But once again, it kind of ties back into the entry, and then there's not that sector that is really driving new players into playing tournament paintball or going into higher levels of paintball. Like you said, a guy who just played and he's like, I've never even seen this before in my life. I didn't know this existed. So we have to do a lot better job of attaching that to the entry level paintball players and getting it really cycling well.
Yeah, man. And like you said, hopefully Best Kids in Texas can be a tool and a first, a first go in that
totally
that vein of content for the sport.
Yeah, we got to get on iTunes. Everybody, please, from the bottom of our hearts, please get in there. Throw those couple quarters into iTunes there. Let's really drive sales in there. And, then the next thing is it could get on Amazon. Then we have a bunch of people watching it in Amazon on Prime. And then hopefully we can get it somewhere else and keep the ball rolling, keep that paintball ball rolling, man.
Yeah. And I mean, honestly, like I know we're pushing, to support the community, but it's just a great film too. It truly is. I'll keep saying that because I need to go back and there's some parts that I didn't get to see again. I just didn't have enough time. I watched probably an hour and 10 minutes, so I'm not too far off.
Okay. You got about 20 minutes
there were some
left.
parts that I skipped I wanted to see the ending. So I skipped some middle parts that I need to go back and just kind of feeling, because I was stoked. I was just sitting here watching a good paintball film. Like, it's awesome. I love, especially during this whole pandemic, the first thing I did in the first 2 months, I watched pretty much every single film. I'm a paintball junkie, dude. I'm a paintball nerd. I still love this stuff. I got sick of watching Vegas footage from Go Sports. I watched that till I was blue in the face. And then,
you're like, all right.
and then I started pulling out, all the old ones: Push, Sunday Drivers, Serial Killers, Heroes for a Day, just so many different films that are iconic. And they, if you like paintball, you're just going to enjoy watching this one. If you appreciate the struggle and everything that goes into being a paintball player, you're going to like this documentary.
So I have an unpopular opinion for you.
Okay.
For both of you
Let's
guys.
hear it.
You hate Sunday Drivers.
It's almost.
You hate Sunday Drivers.
No, an unpopular opinion. Sunday Drivers is actually maybe Pat's best film and is maybe better than Push.
Whoa, there we go.
So here's why I think that's valid to consider. I always said this, like, Sunday Drivers wasn't as well received when it came out, but I always said, like, dude, this is going to age really well because it came out at a time where there was like a bunch of change. So like it featured Avalanche, but all those dudes had bounced to Miami Effect and stuff like that. But as the years went on, like that all blends together. That doesn't matter. You go back and watch it and it's just a snapshot of that period of time. And there's some fantastic things in Sunday Drivers. I mean, I say that half kidding in that, Push is just it's so revered and it should be. But Sunday Drivers is great. It is iconic.
I think I gotta agree with you, though. I truly do. And I've said it, like, dude, Maddie's opening statement in that is just, it sets the tone for greatness. I mean, Sunday Drivers, to me, growing up, was my favorite one. Push was the first. So it's funny. I can say that I think Michael Jordan is the GOAT, but Kobe Bryant to me is the best ever. Those are totally contradictory, and it doesn't make sense. But to me, it's kind of like that. Like Michael Jordan was just the first to do it. Push was the first to do it, and then Sunday Drivers. It was just, to me, it was my favorite. I liked Sunday Drivers more than I liked Push. And it's like, I don't know, it's 1A, 1B, those are two.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
so
It's not like
impossible. It's just so impossible.
Like
but
this.
I mean, Sunday Drivers was really special. It was a little more up to date too, to the type of paintball that I was playing at that time. Push was a little before my time, so I couldn't relate to it as much, but it was like the only dominant just paintball film that was out,
Yeah. I mean, dude, because if you think about it, like, you'd have to double check with Maddie probably, but I'm pretty sure World Cup 99 was the first tournament played entirely on airball. I think that was the big deal for that. So the other 4 tournaments of that 99 season still had hyperball or still had woods ball or had like had a mix. Maybe that's what 99 was no hyperball. But yeah, by the time you get to Sunday Drivers, you're really fully getting into the speedball, airball kind of aesthetic on stuff. Obviously, you can see a super, super young dynasty in that film as well. Young Oliver Lay and young Ryan.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, they're great. I mean, if anybody hasn't seen those, I encourage you to find them. I'm assuming Pat's got them out there.
They're on YouTube. I watch them on YouTube. I was able to pull up really good quality. Actually, I think the Push one was not the greatest quality, but it was still really good. It was just, you can find them on YouTube. It's free. Pull them up and just, dive in for a couple hours because they're iconic.
Dude, so here's the Push. Here's a anecdote about Push that ties a lot to what you're talking about. So when JT got sold and became part originally of Press Eagle and whatnot, they brought in a guy who had experience in action sports. He had been at No Fear. He was a motocross guy and had affinity for JT from its background in motocross. And he was like, it's paintball. I don't know, dude. But somebody, I don't know if it was John Gregory or who it was, but they were like, watch this before you say yes or no. And go to the Avalanche section. And they gave him Push. And he watched the Avalanche section and, the famous poor man going right. The Italian likes it melted. Okay. He's grilling Rocky's, burger. And he watched that section and he totally had he was like, oh, Crystal Soya, Rocky Cagnoni, Ed, Psalm, Knopp, the rest of that Avalanche. He was like, oh, there's something here with these guys. There's some personalities. There's some things that can connect. That's all, Pat brought
How
that
funny
out.
is that? That's like a part that has nothing to do with paintball. I mean, but it also has everything to do with paintball, though. The
But it
camaraderie,
doesn't
yeah.
have anything to do with paintball. Yeah.
But it's like nothing with the actual game, you know? It's so funny, dude.
That's the beauty of it, though. I mean, again, for you guys, of you said something way earlier, Marcel, that I do want to go back to, and that I hope, because it's the mark of any good film that you can, documentary or not documentary, is that you can connect, you can see yourself or some version of yourself in the main character of the story.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't tie to them, so because you said something earlier where you were like, hey, I know this is X Factor's journey, but as it got into it, I could start to see some of myself, my own. I hope a lot of paintball players and that watch this feel that same way. They see things they can relate to. You know, their details might be different than Alex's or Colt's or Archie's, but I hope that they can see that sort of like relatability, because you know that's hopefully what we were going for, and how you hopefully get people to connect to the movie. I bring that up because, again, what you say about the famous scene in Push with them grilling the burgers, that has nothing to do with paintball, but
Everything to do with paintball. Yeah, totally, man.
Yeah, it's got to be relatable.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, yeah, they're not going to connect with it for sure.
And what's funny, you know, Tyler and I, we coach a lot of teams around the U.S., around the world, actually. And I guarantee you they relate to this documentary and the struggles that X Factor went through and the rise through the ranks to the pro division, because it's the same stuff that I see with all my teams. And Tyler, I'm sure you agree as well, you know, and it's the same kind of struggles, the similar sacrifices, whether it's from a girlfriend or family or school, you know, sleeping on a couch, grilling burgers. Like it's all, we have such a similar story. And I think that's also why the paintball community has always, for the majority, been so close, you know, because, you know, you meet someone and it's like, oh yeah, I play paintball. Or if you're going to an NXL event and you see a paintball player, you can spot them from a mile away. And it's like, there's this camaraderie amongst paintball players. I think that it comes from understanding the sacrifice for a sport that there's no guarantee that you're going to make millions. Actually, it's probably never going to happen that you're going to make millions. You're in it for the friendships, the experiences. You can monetize it. We've talked about that. You can definitely monetize the game. You can make money being a professional paintball athlete. Not much. It's really difficult. You have to work really hard. You have to do a lot of different things on the business side of it. But it's about the experiences and the brotherhood or the sisterhood. We got a lot of females that are coming up too that are dominating, which is amazing. Awesome. And that's what it's about. And so you make all these sacrifices for something, you kind of instantly connect with other people that, you know, they're making those same kind of sacrifices. You just kind of have this beautiful thing in common.
I mean, dude, this film doesn't get made also without that kind of attitude. Like, I mean, I got to pop some people quick. That was like Ryan Gray, man. What he called me and was like, hey, I think he saw an early trailer or something. And he was like, are you done with this? And I'm like, well, not totally. What's up? And he was like, Ryan Gray, institution in Texas paintball, Texas Storm. And I was like, well, bro, and I've known Ryan for a long time. I was like, bro, I mean, I'd love to have you in it, but like, we're out of budget. I can't go to Oklahoma. He's like, it's only like 10 hours. I'll drive up.
No way.
Whoa. I'm like, what? Yeah, he drove up. His interview is in my living room. That painting is in my house.
Oh, man.
Then,
sacrifice.
Then on top of that, I think because they heard about it, Devin Odell reached out to me and was like, hey, and I was like, well, God, I would love to have you and Dusty, but I don't think I'm going to be in Texas again. And he's like, dude, I got 1 billion frequent flyer miles. Let me bring you out in a day trip. I'm like, okay, man, awesome. Dixon Yang and his wife, Miranda, I mean, all the time that we were in San Antonio, crashing at their house. Most of those interviews are shot in Dixon's living room.
Yeah.
Just like so much, just gratitude and like welcomeness from those folks. And that's how a story like this gets told. So I wanted to make sure, Ryan Brand also, I mean, he's listed, if you look in the credits, as a producer, and like, that's not just a token thing. Like, Ryan worked really hard to help coordinate a lot of things, make a lot of things happen. Grayson and his wife, Ashley, put me up a couple times when I came down there.
Yeah, they're great people.
Yeah, it is, man. You find a lot of great people in paintball, and it's hopefully something that brings people together from different geographies or different perspectives,
Yeah.
and very thankful for those folks. And hopefully we got a great documentary that people really connect to out of that process.
Well, I think you did, man. The whole nostalgia of it is captivating for me. It was a quality film, very quality.
It's really funny doing this show with you, Tyler, and having all the guests that we have on, because we're still highly competitive, and our number one goal still is to win, but we still do this show. And it's funny because I've found myself having to flip the switch. On the field, I have absolutely no warmth in my heart for anyone on X Factor, but off the field, and when we're having these kind of shows, we have Archie on, or Ryan, or like, there's nothing but love for that entire organization and everything that they've gone through to get to the point where they are. And actually watching them win those 2 back-to-back tournaments last year, watching Archie's performance, just watching that all come together after, years of
5,
struggle.
6 years.
They didn't win
Yeah.
since World Cup, and like, you can't help but cheer for them. But it is funny, that switch that as a competitor you have to be able to turn off. And it's been a funny dynamic, and I just kind of realized it right now, because this show's basically about X Factor, and how funny
That's right.
funny is that, but I love it, I truly do. Like, I have so much appreciation for those guys and everything they do for paintball in that community as well. It's so massive for Texas paintball. They are the best kids in Texas. That name is very deserving, and AC Dallas is going to have to pry that out of their hands if they want any chance of ever holding that title. I don't think they can. And no shade towards them. I love AC Dallas as well for what they've done in the camp they have. But seeing X Factor come from where they started as young kids, just like a young dynasty, and stick together, and never really, besides, maybe Billy Bernaccia and they got Rainey now too, but they've never been the team that just goes and throws a bunch of money at one of the best players in the league. They really are homegrown. And they've done it. They've achieved all there is to achieve in professional paintball.
Their journey is interesting. It really is unprecedented. I mean, dude, it's funny. Maybe in a way, the other thing with 15 not picking up is, it's like, you guys had strife, but not enough of it. Yeah. Like, you're too good, too consistently. Yeah. It's you're hard pressed if you look at X Factor's journey, and I don't mean a franchise like Iron Man or Aftershock, which, again, nothing but respect for, but like, those ultimately are really sports franchises, and they get the turn. Like, most pro paintball teams in that, it's a 3, 4, 5 year moment, avalanche, trauma, pick up your, and so X Factor should have been dead to rights a long time ago.
Yeah.
The 2013 World Cup should have been their swan song. They weirdly were more consistent, even though they were always finishing third. They were more consistent between 13 and 19 than in any other part of their career. That's just really strange.
Yeah. I love that part in the movie too, where they're talking about, he's like, I'm not going out like this. It was just it's an amazing story that they never gave up, and short of this year being kind of a little bit of a wash, we have only played one tournament, but last year they really set the tone, man. They did a great job last year.
I want to say too, Marcelo, I think that's really cool that you had that kind of realization, and I think it probably shows you guys moving to a different level as individuals in the world of paintball, that you're like, okay, as I become more of an ambassador, a seasoned, on, if you want to call it the business side of paintball or the marketing side of paintball, I got to turn this off. I mean, I'm turning it back on when I go on the field, and I want those guys, I want to slit their throats on the field. But then when we come off of it, you realize, like, okay, I'm in kind of a different mode.
Totally.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Sports have always been about compartment. Well, honestly, a lot of life to me is compartmentalizing. I've done that my whole life. I don't know if maybe, when I was younger, I had some certain adversities that kind of forced me to learn how to do that. But I've always really utilized it in sports. From a young age, I would have, friends that would see me at tournaments, and they come up and they want to say hi before a game. And I honestly tell them to, fuck off. Like, look, I don't want to talk to you right now. I'm getting ready for a game with my team, and I'm in this zone. It's something that I've always been able to do. I think it's very important for athletes. Really, I think it's important for anybody to be able to do, is to be able to turn on and off, so that you can maximize your efforts in something. But you can't always be in that mode. It's just not healthy. You have to be able to know when to turn on, when to turn off. And it's an important skill, I think.
I'll give you a great example of this. And I really want to make mention of this before we go off. This is actually the very first Artifact short, and it's an example of what you're talking about. If it's not up on something from Planet Eclipse yet, Al Woods, I know you're listening to this. Put this up as soon as you can. Mm-hmm. It was from 2010, and it was Aftershock, like one of their reboundings, one of their best finishes, maybe like fourth. And the example of what you're talking about in compartmentalizing, they knocked out the Russians. There's a scene in this with our friend Tim Montrosser, who is not with us anymore, who, you talk about that compartmentalize, is one of the nicest, best human beings I've ever met. And he gives this absolute fire and brimstone, gut and quarter, swear-driven huddle of like, I rip off their necks and step. I mean, I remember getting goosebumps filming it. But then as soon as it's over, like, Tim was the sweetest, most genuine dude ever.
He definitely knew how to flip that switch on and off.
Exactly.
Yeah. That man was a firestorm on the paintball field. Yeah. Holy man.
I mean, you look at all the, I don't know if Jordan necessarily had an alter ego, but Kobe Bryant did. It's the Black Mamba. He literally created that so that when he showed up to game day, he was the Black Mamba. And then he went home to his family, kissed his wife and his daughters, and was a gentle human, and also the great late Kobe Bryant. My goodness, this year has been really tough. And
geez, God, what a year, man.
But,
right?
But it is a very important thing to be able to filter through and shift on and off and tap into different mindsets that are required to obtain different results. Right.
I think that's, I think that's something else that can benefit paintball, or paintball maybe has a bright future, is maybe it's been harder for past folks that were players that transitioned to the business side to compartmentalize that stuff. If you guys can kind of conquer that, I think I think the game and the sport will be, you might open some new doors to yourselves.
Oh, I'm not
interesting.
I'm not worried about it. I know we can conquer that. It's all fun in the game. It's easy. It just comes natural to us to be able to do this. Honestly, it's been amazing to connect with the paintball community. And honestly, I feel like Tyler and I have built really great friendships. Like, this is the longest you and I have ever talked, Dan. This is
yeah, I know, man. Besides your interview, this is literally the longest
we ever talked. And like, it's been that way for quite a few of the players that have come on the show. They're players that I've known for 15 years, and we always say hi and have that kind of rudimentary interaction. But then we have them on the show. We have real conversations, and it's like, wow, we just gained a friend, and that's amazing, And when
well, you talked about it earlier, dude, in that way, like, so he's like, look at Dynasty. So like through Beaster, like with like Alex and Brian, especially Alex and Oliver, like we would go to AFI shows, the four of us. And so we had this friendship, and Yosh, good God, almost forgot him. So that like when I see them at an event, I'm still very respectful of process, but there's a different, you and I know each other. Yeah. Me and Tyler know each other. We're friendly, but I wouldn't feel comfortable. I'm like, dude, Marcelo's over there doing his thing before a game. Hey man, good to see you. Right on.
I might tell you to F off.
Get to right. Yeah. I don't know what you're going to do. But that's what's so cool with this platform, is you're getting to sit down with so many people and converse in a different way that at a tournament, it's so, or it's so business driven, where it's like, hey, like, we want to do this gun promo. Like, can you come over here and like do this? You don't really get that kind of opportunity
Yeah.
So yeah, man. I mean, I think it's fantastic you guys are doing
Totally.
this.
It's been unreal. The experience has been surreal, to be honest. Through the midst of everything that's been going on, we've taken this great opportunity to connect with the community that we love so much and that we care about, and all the players, the industry, the back end, everyone who captures it, like you, and just every different facet of paintball is so important. And we're just blessed and fortunate to be able to have these conversations with everybody. It's been a great time.
How long you guys been going? Like about 6 months, or has it been longer than
5
that?
months. Yeah.
Has it been 5 now? Yeah, April. I think like April 22nd or 19th April 19th might have been our first episode.
Yeah.
I think this will be our 38th episode.
Yep.
Yeah, 38th.
Wow.
Yeah.
Was it COVID that inspired you guys to do this, or had you always talked about it?
We had always wanted to work together on something, and we had tossed around the idea of podcast, or like we didn't know kind of really what, and then everything hit and everything was shut down. We're like, bro, let's start a show, and then it just kind of naturally happened, and we were like, okay, let's just do it. And then we started a LLC, Play the Game Podcast, and we also have Play the Game Paintball. So we're just running with it and having fun and staying in the moment.
Dude, I have one critique of your merch.
Okay.
Let's hear it.
I'm gonna get it.
You're gonna get it.
Dude, he's got the merch. He's got the mug.
Oh.
Yeah. So I'm a huge coffee drinker.
Yeah.
But the problem is, right? So like I'm left-handed.
So
two-sided print, man. I can't rep because nobody sees.
Well, hold on. Why do you hold your coffee mug like that? What a weirdo! Like,
well, even
if I hold it in my left,
hold it like this, you still
don't see
it.
But you see it, right? You
get to look at us.
You get to look at us.
So you get to see it. That's
so
true.
you're just putting your lips on our foreheads every time you take a sip.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
Okay, hey.
This is going to be retired.
Noted.
It's branding, man. The extra too.
Yeah.
I can't remember what I was doing. I was doing an interview or a photo shoot or something, and I wanted to make sure and get your guys' and I was like, oh shit! It's like, so I'm holding it in my right hand, which I never do. So I'm feeling like awkward.
Well, first of all,
I love that you guys have all.
Dude, we love you, dude. Are you serious?
Yeah.
Thank you for getting the mug. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Thank you for the
That's
support,
so
man.
awesome.
We'll make a left-handed one specially for you.
And
you know what? That's getting put in the notepad right now. Left-handed mug. It's as easy as that.
Right.
Done.
Two-sided at least two-sided.
There we go.
But yeah, if you did a specialty,
we can do that too. But if we do it two-sided, then all the right-handed people have to put their lips on our foreheads. They might not want that, right? So,
that's true. Fair play.
So the left-handed mugs I didn't even realize that. I just never thought about it, but there is.
Well, it's just like most coffee mugs, like my Clash mug. Yeah, it's on both sides.
There we go. I love it.
You guys, so that like regardless of which hand you're holding it in, people see
double-sided mug.
I googled this before we did this, and they did say most are just one label on the right. So you have a very special mug right there. Hey, maybe I saw something bad on Google. Who knows? I didn't look that far into it. I like it. Dude. We just upgraded ourselves. Our merch store is about to be boosted.
Nice, dude, right?
Totally, dude.
Yeah. What's the old Marcus Nielsen saying? Always upgrade. Never
That's
down,
right.
Exactly.
That's one of the rules of life there.
Chase the dream.
No. I'm just giving you guys a hard time, but I love that you guys are doing merch. It's super fun.
Yeah.
Like it's so cool to see you guys, blowing up all this stuff with
dude.
With the podcast in such a short period of time.
It's been great. It's been very fulfilling, and we're excited for the future. We're just doing like fun stuff. Like you got the coffee mug, we got some like little dog tags that'll come out, and like maybe like a license plate, little surround frame or something. Play the game paintball. Just little fun things for paintball.
Yeah, and we love the name too, and the message it means. Play the game paintball, right? Like that's exactly what we want to do. We want to get more people out there playing the game. We want to spread awareness of paintball to. I hate that term, spread awareness of paintball, but essentially that's what it is. We want more eyes on the sport and the thing that we love and the thing that has brought us so much joy and fulfillment and opportunity. Yeah. And what better way than to sit here for hours and talk about it? So
that's right.
Yeah, we love
especially in the pandemic, man. What else are you?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And then once we get the tournaments going, we're super stoked to have like the tournament winner, the golden barrel winner, the move of the tournament. We're going to have so much more that we can dive into with these shows once we get these tournaments tournaments rolling again safely, of course. And
For sure.
World Cup's going to be definitely a little bit different than it's ever been, I'm sure, coming up here. But we're just so grateful to have that opportunity, and we got to do the best we can to stay safe and be mindful of, the type of layers that are going on right now.
I agree.
I mean, to try to take a positive from a negative, and you're seeing this in some other places, that it would be really interesting. And, I'll preface this too by saying, like, I don't have the answer, the magic bullet we talked about earlier, but COVID has forced paintball to break its, in essence, unbreakable cycle, which is it's 5 tournaments. It's from March till April. It's this, it's that. Like, maybe out of that, necessity is the mother of invention type of thing. Maybe, like, I'm not saying, I've had a lot of fun watching Ultimate Shootout.
Yeah.
Like, that's been kind of cool.
Yeah.
The one-on-one that B Shorty's doing with HK has been cool to watch. Like, it's just interesting once you break a paradigm. Because, again, it's a very Oliver thing to say, but it's just human nature to be like, oh, well, we're doing this because we've always done it. Well, once that gets interrupted, it's like, oh, but maybe what if we did do it this way or do it that way? So maybe that'll be something positive out of the pandemic, is it'll really let people be able to sort of change it up and come up with a new approach.
Couldn't agree more, man.
That's huge silver lining right there. I think you're right. People are getting creative, the wheels are turning and we're trying to navigate these uncharted territories.
Yeah.
Pressure makes diamonds. That's what they say, right?
That's it.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
So I'm super curious. What are like a couple of your favorite paintball moments of all time? Like you've seen so much paintball. What would be a couple of the moments that stand out for you as your favorite all-time moments, whether filming or just watching?
So we said the Rocky moment, Avalanche versus Ironman, World Cup 99. Dude, honestly, the infamous versus Dynasty World Cup Challengers 2015. 14, pardon me. Was amazing. Honestly, Impact's first win at PSP Phoenix in 2010, that was really cool to be around for, and to see. Up to that point, they had so many seconds.
That's right.
They had a tragedy happen, and they thought they were out of the tournament, but actually made it to Sunday and flew back in.
That's crazy.
Barton and Joe Yakimic are really super nice people. Because it's weird, dude, when you embed with people, you start to experience, in a cheating way. I'm taking 4% of their experience and I'm getting to get part of, but so when you kind of go through those things and you see people have those culminations, X Factor winning World Cup, because I knew everything those guys had been through was pretty cool.
Hell yeah. That was a huge one. Yeah.
And seeing Avalanche and Dynasty play paintball with Dave Mira behind JT was badass.
Sheesh.
That was also a very famous, very favorite.
Where's
and
that
and it just wasn't.
Yeah.
Beaster, dude. Talk to Brad. I don't like. I wasn't even filming at that point. I think I was there because I was part of my job out of the gate was I was like promotions director for Avalanche. Like that was part of like my duty, and so JT had hooked up this thing where Avalanche and Dynasty played. Dave Mira. So do you guys remember? Oh God, I think it was called the Tony Hawk Boom Boom Huck Jam.
Oh,
Tony Hawk had like a show and a trailer. So this is pre-Nitro Circus. This is kind of the precursor to that, where he had like a tour bus that they took around and it was an ESPN show. And then Dave Mira had a BMX version. And they stopped at JT in Chula Vista. It was like him, I think Chad Keegi was there, another handful of BMXers.
Nice.
And they matched them up. And so this was on Dave Mira's TV show. It was basically like Avalanche and a couple of the BMXers versus Dynasty and a couple of the BMXers.
No way.
Just a little airball field out in the back when JT, the old building out at Chula Vista. That was pretty cool.
Hell yeah. That's crazy.
And probably like a non-paintball
Yeah.
moment. The premiere of Push, like to this day, still gives me goosebumps.
Dude.
That was amazing.
Kids, you
Yeah.
gotta watch it.
And
You gotta watch it. If you haven't seen it, you gotta go watch all these documentaries.
yeah, dude. So the story with that premiere of Push was we had hooked up. It was at World Cup.
Mhm.
It was a live screening at like a sports bar and an outdoor thing. And typical deal.
Was
They
this
do
Sun on the Beach by chance?
It wasn't sun
Okay.
on the beach. We went to like a classy place. I think it was called Damon's.
Okay.
There we go.
Definitely not Sun on the Beach.
Yeah, definitely not sun on the beach. Although sun on the beach definitely plays a part of this story.
Okay.
I think it was called Damon's, and I think the guy was an ex-New England Patriot guy that moved down there. So it was a sports bar. And you typically do a thing where it's like, okay, if you hit this much in food and drink, you don't have to pay a rental fee or this or it's discounted or whatever. So we screen it, and I don't remember the particulars, but like they were kind of being jerks, and they were telling Pat and Brian people had cleared out, and they were telling them something where it's like, well, if you don't drink like if you guys don't run up a $2,500 alcohol bill in the next 30 minutes, it's going to cost you whatever. And so people had filtered out down to Sun on the Beach, and it was like one of the most unified paintball moments. Everybody went down there and just was like, hey, they're going to screw over Pat and Brian if we don't go drink. And everybody just, Rennick Miller is just putting fistfuls of dollars down, drinks just going out to everybody. And I think they doubled like whatever the minimum.
So
but it was a total moment of like paintballers getting each other's backs where they were like, Pat and Brian just did this really cool thing for everybody. And through some miscommunications or whatever, they were going to maybe kind of screw them over.
Oh boy!
So everybody like got their back. That was a really, really neat moment. That was a moment where it felt like paintball was super unified. Also, watching Push that first moment where people felt bought in. So that was pretty cool.
Hey, you rallied the troops there. That's awesome.
I love it. And that's again, that is that paintball unification that I've seen many times, and that's why it bothers me so much when we have certain things go on in the community where it seems like a little fire gets started and the community starts to turn on itself. I don't like that. We're not big enough. We need to work together. We need to have each other's backs and push this sport forward in the right direction and not have all the nonsense. But
for sure. All love for paintball. That's the motto. Yeah,
totally.
Absolutely. And thank you for all of the amazing nuggets that you have captured.
It's just super fun, man. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, dude. I mean, everybody go watch a quality paintball film. It is live right now. Best Kids in Texas. Go stream it, get it going, and support it. Share it on your Instagram. Share it on Facebook. Let's get it booming for this.
Totally. And Dan, you have any last minute like call to actions for anybody, Instagram pages that our listeners should check out, follow, all the above?
Yeah, man. Like, follow social media channels for Best Kids in Texas. It's Best Kids in Texas _film. Also, we talked a lot at the beginning. If you're a fan of baseball, 50 Summers, and then Herd at Films, I work for a really cool, really unique company. That's a blend of an advertising agency and like a media company. Like we have a podcast network. We have a podcast studio.
Wow.
Follow Herd at Films or Herd at Media. You can see some pretty cool stuff there. And then you can see some of the other like commercial work. We do some MMA stuff. Our company actually owns a developmental MMA league.
Wow.
VFC, which was like Fight Pass's for a while. It was like their top rated developmental league. And so we've got a lot of other, like, we're pretty sports themed. Yeah. We've got some other projects coming out. And like I said, that's just Herd at Films. But if you want to keep tabs on the other,
and how do they
other work,
how do they spell that for the listeners who want to follow?
Yeah. Dude, that's awesome. I forgot because it's an odd spelling. It's HURDDAT. Perfect. And then Films, FIMLS.
Beautiful. I'm following you right now.
Sweet, man.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, thanks so much for sharing the evening. Like I said, I know you guys got players that you need to get
No way,
some
buddy.
time to.
No
So
way. You're first in line, man. You've if it wasn't for people like you, we wouldn't have any cool stuff to watch or any, like I said, you guys are on the forefront of all this content before it was cool for everybody to have a podcast or, be doing all these things on YouTube, and you guys are the originators. So it's absolutely fundamental what you guys do for the game, and we appreciate you so much.
Absolutely, man. Hey, and also listeners, stay tuned. Tyler and I will connect shortly, and we will come out with a giveaway. We're going to do some kind of giveaway for people that do download the Best Kids in Texas film. So we will probably have that paired with our Instagram post, which will come in the morning. If you're listening to this, the post might already be there or not. But just stay tuned to the Play the Game podcast Instagram, and we'll be doing a cool little giveaway for the Best Kids in Texas film. So, yeah, man.
Yes, sir.
All right, guys.
Also,
thanks, guys.
The G2. Don't forget about the G2 giveaway as well.
Yeah, we got to pick a winner for that. You're right. We got to pick that winner. But that winner, I think that one's kind of closed. I think we already have a winner for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Yeah, it was the Arturo Andrade show.
Yeah,
on that one.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Nice.
Cool.
All right, guys.
Sweet. Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you, brother.
Thank you so
Stay
much.
safe out there.
Later. Same to you.
What an amazing show. Man, what a guy. Thank you, Dan, for coming on the show. And thank you all for tuning in once again to the Play the Game podcast. We cannot thank you enough for all your continued support. Be sure to support Dan with his newest film by going to iTunes and downloading Best Kids in Texas. We're going to be doing a giveaway on the Play the Game podcast. You can go to our Instagram or our Facebook, PTG Podcast for the Facebook, and at Play the Game Podcast on Instagram, and get all the details on what we're going to be doing for the giveaway. You can win a PTG shirt. We have some Play the Game Podcast shirts, and we'll be giving you some Transfuse as well. All you have to do is download the new movie, Best Kids in Texas, do a screenshot and hashtag Best Kids in Texas movie, and also hashtag PTG giveaway, and we will be picking a lucky winner who has downloaded the Best Kids in Texas movie and has watched it and taken that screenshot, and you'll get a nice little prize package. And it's a great way to support paintball and support Dan. It's a phenomenal documentary with just great lessons in it and great music, great cinematography. It's just an all-around great paintball movie, so go support that and support paintball. Who knows, maybe someday it'll be on Netflix if it does well enough. We have to get it through the pipeline right now, get the numbers going and boosted for him, and then it could make it to Amazon, and then the goal is to get it hopefully on something like Netflix where we can get a lot of eyeballs on paintball. So thank you guys for supporting. Head over to ptgpodcast.com and become a supporter of the show there. Got all the podcasts, YouTubes, the storefront, little information on our partners, and you can also support us as a Patreon supporter for PTG, where you get 20% off of online and personal merch, which is all PTG merch, and you also get exclusive content that is only for our Patreon supporters. The website was developed by constantpursuit.com. If you're looking to get your website up to date, your paintball field or a store, go to constantpursuit.com to get dialed in with Rusty Glaze, and he will take care of you and make sure that your website looks better than anybody else's. And he's always there for you, always there to support and help. So he's a great guy. Head over to constantpursuit.com and check that out. If you have any questions or want us to talk about something on the show, you can always DM us at Play the Game Podcast. And we hope you stay well out there and keep rocking in the free world. Thank you, guys.